It looks a little better. All right. Like I said, Twin Dragon D, how's the photo? Is it? Can you read all the words? It's too far to the left. Well, let's change it up and see if I can.
Right there is good. Right there. Leave it right there.
I haven't changed anything yet. When you're on stage, you can see it all, but it's when you're off stage, I need people to be able to see it.
No, when I was off stage, it was to the left too much.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Let me do this middle grid and see if it'll push it. All right. So how about now, Jason? Is it this middle grid sometimes seems to help it out to where it's not pushed too far to the left? That's better. Okay.
Does that to you every time.
I know, and there's no specific. I have tried to format it a specific way. There's some people online that's able to use the whole picture, but then when I do that, I have to make the edges of the picture completely useless. And if you're trying to make a photo, that's kind of hard to do because it cuts off so much stuff. So then I have to make the formatting of the wording different and put it in the middle. It's very frustrating. Maybe one day TikTok will fix it. So, all right, guys. If you don't mind, give me let's bunch of hearts here and shares. If you don't mind, let's push me out in the algorithm, and hopefully we'll have some good conversations. It's got to be better than what I had Sunday, man. Sunday was crazy. The whole live Sunday was nothing but evolutionists. 5 of them in a row that just come in and then would not let me get out the argument in an effort to contend with theirs. Very frustrating live.
Made for some entertaining clips, though.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I got something out of it because, man, I couldn't get nothing out. How did kangaroos hop from Australia to the Ark? Well, you're implying that Australia was there before the Ark. So where was the Ark when the kangaroos got on the Ark? That's the problem. Moji Joe 66, if I said that right?
Yes, you have. And I'm looking at your marquee where it says that the flood was real. Now, you, of course, are talking about the flood that is in Genesis chapter 6, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not going to disagree with you that the flood wasn't real. Clearly, there were such things as floods that has always existed. So clearly, any flood is going to be realistic. But when you speak about that flood in Genesis chapter 6, are you claiming that that flood encompassed the whole of the earth, everywhere
Yes,
in
sir.
the earth, or only one particular spot that is on the earth?
No, I believe it was worldwide, just like the Bible says.
Why would you believe that?
Well, I would believe it first and foremost. I'm not hiding it. I believe it because the Bible says it, and then secondary, I believe it because of
But we also
the-
know that
I hadn't got it
people
out yet,
only
brother.
wrote the words that are in the Bible. So you're actually only believing what other people have told you. Let's make
Okay,
sure we
well, hold on,
understand
brother.
that.
Mo. Okay, so you're going down 2 different ways. So let me finish answering the first question, because I said the first reasoning was because of the Bible, but then outside of that, I go with the massive amount of evidence that's all over the planet for a worldwide flood. But now, because I didn't get to finish that, I also have to chase what else you said. This is why I like to do one at a time and go kind of slow, because now you're implying that people wrote the Bible, meaning that it can be flawed or changed. So do you have any
Yes,
evidence of either
exactly.
one of those? Okay. Do you have any evidence of that?
Do I have any evidence that people are the ones who wrote the words on pages in the Bible?
That is-
of course I
that
have evidence
because-
of that.
Brother,
Are you kidding
because
me? Do you
Brother.
really believe that a
Oh, my
spiritual
goodness.
being wrote the words that are on these pages? Do you
No,
really
so
believe that?
I need you to steel man my argument. Do you have any evidence that because people wrote it, that it's been changed?
That because people wrote the biblical scriptures that it has been changed?
Yes. All right, so let's
Yes, I know
slow
for an
down.
absolute fact that biblical scriptures
Okay.
have been changed.
Okay, give me an
Yes.
example.
The
me an
original
example.
manuscripts, everything that you are reading in certain books.
Oh my
that are
God,
in
he
the
must be.
Old-
Sorry.
Be
Hey,
quiet,
don't,
sir.
hey,
I'm trying.
hold
I'm
up.
trying to
Stop,
answer this
stop.
question.
Hold
if
on,
you allow
guys.
me
Stop.
to.
That's a. I will let you talk, but Twin Dragon D, that's a rule violation, man. You can't do that. I'm gonna have to remove you. TikTok doesn't allow that R word. It'll ban my account. So, let's not do that. All right. So,
Yes,
Moji, I
we do
apologize.
have
We're not.
evidence.
So, okay. All right. So let's start over. Let's wipe this slate clean. Let's make sure that we're on the same page about what we're talking about. So you believe that we have it, and I gotta remove you, Twin Dragon D. You gotta come back. TikTok's making me remove you. So, all right. Here's what we got. So you believe because the Bible has been written by men that it's been changed. So okay, I would like an example of that, please.
Well, okay, I believe it would be Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, I believe, when it speaks about Lucifer. In the original manuscript of Isaiah, the word Lucifer did not exist in the original manuscript. It was placed in there in place of words son of the dawn.
Can you check your?
right there is
Do
one
you have an
example
alarm? Yeah,
that
check that alarm, brother. It's very hard for me to talk to you.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that in
Actually, it was
Isaiah
a
the
phone
words.
number.
Have you ever heard of different versions of the Bible?
Yeah. Hold on one second, brother. I'm trying to. I want to narrow this
No,
down. I
I
don't mind you
specifically
jumping in,
talked
but let
about
me
the
nail
King
this down
James.
first. Okay. So you're saying Isaiah 12 added the word Lucifer for what?
Actually, Lucifer, what verse is Lucifer in? Isn't it verse 14?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Did
So
I,
that's
did
why
I
I'm trying
say
to get
Isaiah
clarification.
14, 12?
Let's see. Isaiah 12 does not mention Lucifer at all. So I don't.
I said Isaiah 14.
I'm trying to figure out.
Did you,
Isaiah
you go
14,
to Isaiah
okay.
chapter 14.
Okay, Isaiah
I
14,
think
12.
you go to verse 12.
Okay.
I think it is in verse 12. Well, it
All right, the
doesn't
Hebrew
really matter.
text, Isaiah 14:12 says, Helel ben Shir, which means shining one, son of dawn. When the Hebrew Bible
Okay, so
translated
what
it into
Bible are
Latin,
you
the
reading?
Latin.
What version, what biblical version are you reading?
I got you, brother. Listen, I'm giving you the answer right here. Okay, this is why. So when you say they added it, okay, so they translated it, not added it. There's a difference. The Hebrew text of Isaiah 14:12 says, I'm not going to try to say that because that's Hebrew. I can't. Helel ben Shazar, which means shining one, son of the dawn. When the Hebrew Bible
Okay.
was translated into Latin, please let me get this out. The Latin Vulgate, Jerome rumored the phrase as Lucifer, which simply means light bearer in Latin. Early English Bibles included this in the King JV, kept the Latin word, so it reads, How art thou fallen one, O Lucifer, son of the morning. So we see that this verse in the Bible is talking about Lucifer, whether you call him that in the Hebrew or not. So it's an accurate translation to say that this is Lucifer.
It has nothing to do with other verses that were either deleted and words that were deleted from those verses as well.
Can you
as-
give me an
that's
example?
that's
Because the
what
first
you-
one kind of
Where are
failed.
we going? Well, where are we going with this?
Because
What
I
if
don't believe the
continue-
Bible's been.
If I continue to give you examples, what difference is it going to make as to who wrote the
Because-
biblical scriptures?
Because we have a very important thing we have to do up here. If you're going to come up and claim that the Bible has been falsified or that there's been these changes in it, most of them I'm probably aware of, like the Alexandrian manuscript to the Byzantine manuscript, but a lot of people in the comments aren't. So if you're going to make a claim, one of my rules is that you have to support that claim. And so you made the claim that the King James Version of the Bible right here, or the Latin, if you will, the Latin Vulgate, translated it into Lucifer. But when we look at the context is talking about Lucifer. So that's not a change. That's just a translation. So That's if you want to move on to
Well,
something else, I'm okay with that. But what we can't do is
the
just leave
problem
this out
this.
here.
The problem is this, sir.
Okay.
Isaiah chapter 14 is not referring to a Satan or a devil. It's referring to the king of Tyre.
That's
But
not.
you
No,
have,
it said the
yes, it is.
in Isaiah 42. No, it's not. The Hebrew
Sir,
literally
did you-
translate as
But did you read the
brother.
beginning of chapter 14?
I am. Here's the
Then let's
Hebrew.
go to
Here's
it.
what the Hebrew words that they. Okay, I am. Please calm down so we can have a good conversation. Okay. Here's what the Hebrew says. When you said that it's not talking about Lucifer, here's the Hebrew. It literally translates as to the shining one, right? Not many, but the shining one, the son of the dawn, which would be referring to Lucifer. That's why they translated it as Lucifer.
Now, okay, so let's go to the beginning of Isaiah 14 and see exactly who is being referred to.
Okay.
Does it speak of the king of Tyre?
King of Babylon.
So who do you think that he's describing? Who do you think Isaiah
Well,
is
when it-
describing in the whole chapter?
When it talks,
It is about
when
the
it
king
spe-
of hell. It's about a literal person.
oh,
a
let me
king,
fix that.
not a devil, not a Satan, not a demon. That is how you
Right.
people are having us believe we are to interpret that. But Isaiah is talking about the king himself, a person, and he's simply describing the characteristics of that king.
Okay.
That is what you
so
are
let's
reading farther
let's
down.
okay. So let's find out if the context says that. So what we got? Isaiah 14:12. Let's go there. Hold on one second. Let's see the Bible Gateway. Isaiah. $14. All right. So, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Thou art cut down to the ground, which dost weaken the nations. So, in the context of this verse right here, do kings fall from heaven?
But again, sir, what you're doing is you're forgetting the other verses that comes before that verse.
I am, but we're looking at it's still the context, brother. In this verse, the context is talking about them falling from heaven. So answer the question directly. Do kings fall from heaven?
Do kings literally fall from heaven? Of course not.
Okay, when it talks about Satan elsewhere in the Bible, does it describe him
Satan?
as being
Okay, go on.
yes, Lucifer, Satan, the devil? When it describes him in the Bible, does it say that he is made from musical instruments and describe him as shiny and being the prettiest of God's creation, and because of his beauty, that's why he thought he was deserved to be exalted? Does the Bible describe him as that way?
As who? Him as whom? Who do you talking about?
All right, so this verse right here, we see the devil is described as the shining one. Elsewhere in the Bible, we see the devil described as the shiny one. It said he's made of the musical instruments, and because of his beauty that he thought he should be exalted. So clearly the context is Satan. I don't know why we're trying to hang on to this so bad. I guess just because we're ashamed to admit that this is clearly talking about Satan. He fell from heaven, and he has all the attributes that Satan had.
I mean, I guess I'm confused about why we're talking about a fictional book in the context of evolution.
I mean, you guys believe you come from a rock, so which one's more fictional, the book or your rock?
Definitely the book, yeah.
So you think that a book that has never been disproven against us coming from a rock? Hey, you're free to believe that, brother. That's on
Wait,
you
you
if
said-
that's what
you
you
said-
want to believe.
Hold up, you said never been disproven?
Yeah, give me something on that's disproven. So far, we failed. If you got something, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so you believe that two of got onto a boat. Two of
All right,
every
hold
single
on.
animal.
Hold on, guy. Wait, you're going. You got to be able to engage, and you have to be family friendly. I don't mind it getting contentious, but come on, man. You can use regular language without having to sound like an idiot.
sorry,
right?
my bad. I'm an adult, so I use whatever the language I care to use. But
I know. I want to have this
curse. I get it.
conversation
I
with
get
you,
it.
but
You
let's
guys are-
stay it up here.
I get it. I won't curse. You got to spread your propaganda to the kids, you know. But yeah, there's literally no evidence for anything.
y'all see what that's what evolutionists do. They can't contend with the argument, so I don't believe like him. We got a little bit contentious there. He threw a little jab, I threw a little jab. That's fine. But cussing me out because you don't agree with me, that's ridiculous.
But the point that he was making is this: it's about Noah being able to
what
find
point did he make?
two of every animal and allow all of
It doesn't say
every
that.
animal to go into the ark. You mean to
It
tell me
doesn't
that
say that.
Noah didn't? What does it say then?
That's a straw man. Noah didn't have to take fish on the boat, so clearly it wasn't two of every animal. You guys make a straw man and attack that.
He's talking about Noah. The story clearly tells you that Noah went around in his area. He couldn't have gone in Australia or any of those other places.
No, it doesn't.
He couldn't have been
No,
able
it
to
doesn't.
have.
You guys,
Christians
brother, you are.
Every animal, the same vicinity as Noah was when he was collecting two of each one of them.
Stop. When you literally just said the Bible says, and then you said something the Bible doesn't say. Noah didn't go collect any animals, brother. You're just so factually inaccurate. I don't think you've read it, and you're trying to contend against it. The Bible says that God brought the animals to Noah, not Noah didn't have to go out and get them. You may think that that's not a big distinction, but it is. You're factually inaccurate when you said that he had to go out and get them. That's not true at all. Okay? Secondly, if you said that they couldn't fit on the boat, then how many animals was it? Do you know? Because I do.
Oh, really? You know exactly how many animals, number-wise,
Within
there was
reason.
on the boat?
Within reason, yes. Within reason.
So you really do not know?
Yes. Well, there's been studies on this, so I can use empirical evidence like the study of baryometry that goes back to the original kind that breathes through their lungs like the Bible describes that has to be on the ark, right? So it doesn't describe every animal. It doesn't say that. Like insects don't have to be on the ark. They'll live just fine on floating debris mats outside of the ark. So we can go ahead and get rid of the insects. It's only the land animals that have the breath of life in their nostrils. That's what the Bible says. So out of those, hold on, brother. Don't just come in here and start talking. Wait till you get to a spot you can jump in, okay? And then, so if you do the study of baryometry, I'm probably messing it up again. I've looked at it, but I never get that word right. But it's the original Hebrew word for kinds, and that's what the study is. And it shows about 6,000 original kind. So he had to bring 2 of some of each, and then 7 of the unclean or the clean, whatever. So I would say on an estimate that would help you guys out, I would say about 20,000 animals. So 20,000 animals, there would be adolescent animals, obviously, because 1, they don't eat as much, and 2, the whole purpose of them being on the ark was to reproduce when they got off. So naturally, Noah wouldn't have taken old animals or large animals on the ark because they're not going to reproduce when they get off the boat, clearly. So you're going to take adolescent animals, and you're only going to have 6,000 original kinds, so 20,000 altogether, right? That would fit on a boat that was longer than a football field, 3 buses end to end wide, and 5 stories tall. Yes, those animals could fit conservatively on that boat, brother.
Himself say that he brought Noah the animals.
Yeah, God brought you. I missed half of what you said there because you was away from the mic. Say it again.
Where in Genesis
What is a
chapter
kind?
6 does it say that God is the one who brought the animals to Noah?
What is a kind?
Yeah. The Bible says they'll bring forth after their kind, so the animals
what is
typically
a-
would be able to bring forth. I just told you that's what it is. The animals that
didn't
bring
tell me
forth
what
after
it
one
is.
another.
No, that you told
Okay,
me what
well-
God did. You didn't.
But
All right,
you
go look it
also
up.
said, but you said to me personally that God is the one who brought the animals to Noah. Where will I
That's
be able
right.
to find that in Genesis chapter 6?
Sure, I got you.
Yes, because I'm reading Genesis chapter 6, verse 19 right now. And
Yeah.
it says, and of every living thing of all flesh,
Genesis
2 of
6:20.
every sort shall you bring into the ark.
Yeah. And it
Shall
says,
you bring-
of the fowl
shall you
after their
bring into
kind,
the
of the
ark to
cattle
keep them
after their...
alive?
Listen, I'm giving it to you right now. Genesis chapter 6, verse 20. And of the fowl after their kind, and the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing of after their kind and his kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto thee. So they're going to come unto him. He's not going to have to go get him. They're going to come to him. Right there. Genesis chapter 6, verse 20, brother. Then you can look again, Genesis chapter 7, verses 14 through 16. They and every beast after his kind went unto the ark, into the ark, unto and then into the ark. And then the Lord shut him in. So Noah didn't have to go hunting for these animals. They went to Noah.
Okay. Yeah. And even though I don't really believe that in and of itself has anything to do with whether the flood was worldwide, which is what we were talking about originally.
Sure, I can answer that now since we kind of knocked those up. That's why I said let's do one at a time so we don't throw a shotgun method out there. So the evidence for the worldwide flood would be hydrologic sorting, polystrata fossils, dinosaur bone beds, soft tissue, and DNA fragments found in dinosaurs.
And how is that evidence of
Okay,
a worldwide flood?
Okay, hydrologic sorting is literally found all over the world. I can make a prediction right now that if you're standing on dry ground and not bedrock, that you can take a core sample of wherever you're at. When you bring that core sample up, it's going to have layers in it. That layering is called hydrologic sorting. It happens in water, and it's literally found all over the world. You're going to say that the geologic column teaches that these layers are different many years apart, meaning that this layer is 65 million years older than this layer. Unfortunately for y'all, we have what we call polystrate fossils. These are fossils, mostly fossilized trees that go through many different layers. So clearly those layers can't be millions of years apart if you have a tree that's connecting all these layers. And we know how polystrate fossils are formed because we saw it in Mount St. Helens when it blew the trees into Spirit Lake. We literally watched it in real time, how this catastrophic event shows us how polystrate fossils are formed. And these polystrate fossils, again, are found all over the world. And then we have dinosaur...
Okay, continue on.
We have dinosaur bone beds that take up several states. This shows that it was one unalived floating debris mat that got laid down as the flood started to recede. And the fact that you have soft tissue and DNA fragments within dinosaurs shows that they're not 65 million years old. So that fits the flood model timeline.
Okay, well then if what you're saying is true, and there was a flood that did affect the whole of the earth, how were other people able to return to the earth other than Noah and his the eight people who were with Noah? Were they all of different races? Was Noah's wife a different race than he was? Was his son?
Yeah, some people
his son's
actually.
wives different races?
Yes,
what
some of
happened
his.
to the other races? How did they return if they all died?
Well, it's not that they returned. You're implying that they were there to begin with. We just don't know. So there's actually a lot of young Earth creationists that say yes, that Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, did have wives from different areas that were of different nationalities. But even if they weren't, hold on, bro. Let me just answer this. Even if they weren't, you can get the different races today from 8 people that got off Noah's Ark 4,400 years ago. The models work with us. So that's just the amount of melanin and then trait isolation. So if you have more melanin in your skin, then you have a darker color skin. You're African American like. And if you have less amount of melanin, and I use America because that's where I'm at. But if you have less melanin in your skin, then you're going to be white. So that's just a trait isolation. That's not different people. We're still the same people.
But not necessarily, because there are other differences that appear in the human body other than the color of their skin. We're talking about bone structure. We're talking about hair texture. We can go on down the line where you can see all the differences between one race to another race. So if I'm to believe what you're saying to be true, then I must also believe that Noah and his sons had to have married into different races. It could not have been his own race.
So
brother, you're gonna have to take a breath.
To me.
So I'm trying to tell you this. Listen. I didn't want you to waste your time. When you have genetic variation, that can occur because this person is more adapted to this particular area. A great example of genetic variation between human beings is the two types of ways humans, people of African descent and people of European descent, are becoming genetically resistant to HIV. So people of African descent do a proviral microRNA that binds the proviral form of HIV-1. And people of European descent, they do a CCR5 receptor site regression. So they have a CCI receptor site that doesn't fully emerge from the cell membrane, so the HIV-1 virus cannot properly attach to the helper T cells. There's two ways that both of those are human beings, because if a person of African descent and European descent have a baby, that baby will be fertile. So they're the same species. All that's happening is they are genetically adapting to the viruses and bacteria in their area. So because HIV-1 has invaded two different areas, that's two different races, quote unquote races, because remember we're all the same race really. But there's two different people areas, two different peoples from two different areas genetically adapting to a virus that infects both. Intracellular resistance is happening in the people from African descent, and extracellular resistance is happening to people of European descent. So there's two different pathways that people right now are becoming immune to HIV-1.
That exists from one race to another.
Man, I was getting ready to say the exact same thing. You took that right out of my mouth.
So let me say this, Mo. When you say that they had to be different races, even if you want to go that you don't believe the Bible teaches that, secular science still shows that every person alive today can trace their mitochondrial DNA to one single female that lived in Africa, not a single female that was different races, right? So we all come from one single, whatever race she was probably darker than I am, but lighter than most African people. That's what I would imagine, because if you have like brown skin, then you can have the really dark trait or you can have the really light trait. So we can, unfortunately for you, we can prove this. So all your mitochondrial DNA traces back to that.
What does that have to do with hair texture? When you look at an African's hair, for instance,
everybody alive, you didn't. Okay, you didn't get it though.
It doesn't.
If your contention is that this couldn't come from 8 people off of the ark, you're proven wrong, because everybody alive today, the black people with really curly hair compared to the Asian with really short or straight hair, all of the people, every nation group, every race, every creed, every sexual orientation can trace their mitochondrial DNA to one single female, brother. So your argument is just defeated.
What are you basing any of that on?
Mitochondrial Eve. All of your mitochondrial DNA can go back to mitochondrial Eve.
So
yes.
Your mitochondrial DNA is... Yeah, your mitochondrial DNA is passed on through your mother. It has its own, if you will, its own DNA code that's separate from our DNA code. It's passed down in females, from the wife from the mother to the daughter, right? Because the sperm goes into the egg, but only the head goes in and the tail gets cut off. So the mitochondrial DNA can be traced through that lineage. We can trace that lineage, and it goes back to what we call a mitochondrial Eve. So your contention that this one group couldn't create all these different races and shades and colors and stuff like this is just factually inaccurate, brother.
Yeah, it's incorrect. And the people of African descent, and people of Africa, it doesn't matter if you agree with it. So if people of African descent actually have the melanin genes that apply. They have the melanin genes that apply to other races as well. It's just you can't get the darkest colors out of the more fairer skinned races, but you can get the fairer skinned races out of the darker colors. That's how they were able to prove that mitochondrial Eve. That's the first.
So you're saying that two people of African descent,
people actually was trying to they were trying to disprove. I mean, god dang, they were just trying to disprove the fact that Asian people came from the same people as BLK people and YT people. That's actually what the purpose was. So they were trying to disprove that Asian people came from. They weren't trying to approve of mitochondria. They were trying to disprove that Asian people came from the same ancestors as people of African descent and people of European descent. They were trying to disprove that. So the Asian people found out not only did they come from the same continent as the African people of African descent and people of European descent, they were able to prove that the only reason they have the adaptations they have is because of how far into that continent they went. That is genetic adaptation, but that's not mutation, because a true mutation away from what you were would mean you're a new species. That would mean Asian people can't have babies with white T people. Asian people can't have babies with BLK people, and that's just not true. So we're all the same species, but we all could trace our mitochondrial DNA back to one woman in Africa, and they did her DNA. They wanted to see what her skin color was, what her hair texture was, and she was an African woman. She was a woman who of dark of skin and who had kinky hair. So you can get other hair textures out of that. It just depends on where you are. That is genetic adaptation. That's not changing to a new species. Because speciation is what they're talking about is speciation. When they're talking about speciation, that means you can't have babies together and your babies are infertile. That's what that means. When they say speciation, that means you cannot have fertile offspring.
How were Asians able to develop slanted eyes?
It's a microevolution, brother. So what happens is
what?
Yeah, so it's a micro. So just if you have a child that has just a little bit tighter skin right here, right, and it pulls their eye socket a little bit more, when they have, this is literally how it does it, right? This is the honest truth,
that's your
man.
take on it. I understand that.
It's not my take. That's literally, it's not my take. This is how it's done, regardless of the side of the fence that you're on. You take that trait, and then you only allow those individuals to mate that have skin that tightens, and out of their children has that trait, and their children has that trait, and that's how it exists. Whether you're an evolutionist or a creationist, that's how it happens. Period. You take a trait that exists and it gets isolated, and he just left. He just left. That. Well, that wasn't a bad conversation. It's better than I've had recently. He just disagreed, but I mean, he wasn't like cussing me out like these other people.
My bad for earlier too. I'm not used to TikTok.
Yeah, it literally pops up a thing that tells me that I have to kick you, or I get hit for it. So it forces me to kick you. I realized that because I called somebody that one day and got my channel banned for 3 days. But what's funny to me is I can't say that, but they can literally come up here and, like that guy did, wish that I unalived, right? Told me that he hopes that I unalive because of my religious viewpoint. Crazy. Colin, what's up, man?
What's up? So
what you got?
So basically, like, my stance is that I don't think that like everything in the universe and like how, and like, again, I'm open to being wrong and stuff, but what I believe now is that like that I just feel like everything in the universe, like all the trees and how we're created so specifically, and like how like everything is and how everything is built can't just be from like a series of like chemical reactions. So like basically that just makes me think that a lot of the things in the Bible are true, which leads me to think that evolution is true.
You mean false?
Or
if you think the Bible's true, then you think evolution is false. Is that what I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you meant to say?
Hold up. Wait, yeah, I low-key thought that you were debating the other side. That's my fault, bro.
No, man, I believe in design, man. I think that God created everything.
Yeah, that's low-key my fault. I thought I read it wrong, low-key. That's my fault.
No problem, brother. No problem.
All right,
Yeah, I think, yeah, man, we'll sharpen up on those arguments, but I totally agree with you. When I look out in the world, I see design, and the Bible says that, you know, these individuals, when they get to heaven for their judgment anyway, it says they're going to be without excuse. It says the unseen things of God is without excuse. So I agree with you, man.
Yeah, that's real. That's my bad. See you, bro. Have a good day.
Yeah, man, do the same, brother. Do the same. All right, that's a funny name. What do you got?
What the fart, not what the F-U-C-K. How you guys doing today?
I just stopped it. Yeah, but yeah, you're doing good. Hope you are.
Everybody good?
So far.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm a believer in creation and design, and just figured I'd jump on the panel and just listen to what you guys got going on here. And I like to use the word Yahuwah instead of God mostly. And yeah, I don't have a religion. I follow Torah. I believe that He instructed us on how to live, and the New Testament was given to us so we understand the Messiah. So here I am.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, you're welcome to stay. To the individual in the comments, I didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier. When we were talking about mitochondrial Eve, I saw you say that the example that I'm bringing up literally proves hundreds of thousands of years. Well, you got two different calculations when it comes to mitochondrial Eve. You got substitution calculations and you got pedigree calculations. Substitution calculations are the inferred rate, and the pedigree calculations are the actual testable and observable rate. And they actually did this in Iceland or Greenland, one of those that ends in a land. They done tens of thousands of different people to actually get the actual mutation rate. And so that's the pedigree calculation. So mitochondrial Eve, according to the pedigree calculation, actually goes back anywhere between 6,000 and 12,000 years. That's the ones that's testable and observable. So we can prove that. The substitution calculations are the ones that they use, and that gives you hundreds of thousands of years. So naturally, they're going to go with the one that they can't test and observe because it gives them hundreds of thousands of years. But the ones that we can actually test and observe is pedigree calculations, and that goes anywhere from 6,000 to 12,000 years. And Jay, man, look, I don't mind. You're welcome to stay in the comments as long as you don't break any of my rules. You're welcome to stay down there and believe that we are a bunch of nerds debating fairy tales. But I would encourage you to come up, man. Come up as a guest, and don't worry about hanging out and running down there in the comments. You can come up here and we can have a conversation, face to face. So I'm not going to disrespect you. I think you've seen how the conversation's going. As long as you remain respectful, then you can stay up here and we'll have a conversation. Even historians know he wasn't a real dude. That's so factually inaccurate. Most of even your most critical scholars, like Bart Ehrman, who is not a Christian, clearly believe that the historical evidence is that Jesus clearly existed. You're just making up stuff and speaking out of the side of your neck. Historians actually believe that Jesus clearly existed. They don't believe any of the miracle things about him, obviously, but they still believe. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, it was Bart Ehrman that actually stated and quoted, if there's one thing that we can know for certain, it's that Jesus Christ existed and that he was unalive by the Jews, or by the Jews, or by the Romans for the Jews. I should say it that way. So, all right, do me a favor, guys, hit that heart and try to get these shares out there. Let's see if we can get some more engagement. So far, it's already better than Sunday I had. Never existed, and there's never been any proof that he did. I think Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John would disagree with you. Those are separate books. They're not one book. They're actually gathered together. A lot of people don't want to go with the Bible today because it's one book, but they have to remember it was only gathered into one book. Before this, it clearly wasn't. I don't know how to say your name. Julio. Julio. Okay, what's up, man?
Hey, man, I just wanted to, there's so many people on TikTok these days trying to, disprove God and just saying Jesus isn't real. And I just wanted to thank you for standing up on your faith, on the facts, the way that you speak. I'm just another brother in Christ saying hello, man, is what I'm saying. It's an interesting topic what you're talking about because, in my opinion, these are things that, if you're somebody who is of the faith, it doesn't matter essentially what faith you follow, what denomination. If you read your Bible and you read the books of Revelations, you read the books of Ezekiel, you read the books of Isaiah and John, these are things that are discussed. You look at the things that are happening in the world today, these earthquakes that we're seeing, the frequency of them, the way that the sun is having all these X flares, and that people who are faithful are curious, and we're asking the right questions, and we're educating ourselves, we're staying in the Word, and with that, we are fortifying each other just the way that you are. You're spreading your faith in the way that you can, and I just appreciate that. And I think it's a very interesting subject what you're discussing, because never know, man. It could be 1,000 years from now. Tectonic plates are shifting. Period. The entire Ring of Fire activated within the last 24 hours. Most people don't even know we just had a 6.9 in Alaska because they're uninformed. They're too busy, yelling at each other over nothing. They're just totally uninformed. So I'm not trying to go off on a rant. I want to,
No, I got you, man. Hey, man, first of all, I do appreciate the encouragement. Thank you. That's well placed. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Let me ask you this, because I want to see if it's anecdotal, just because it's, my algorithm might be feeding it to me. Whenever I see TikToks that are anti-Christian, 99.9% of the ones that I see are all from emotional arguments. I don't really ever see any scientific argument. Is that what you see, or do you see anything else?
Honestly, man, a lot of times it's just people who are, like, the main thing that they're doing is specifically denying their faith and just basically just honing in on maybe one passage or one verse and using that as their entire argument, and it's just a hill that they're already dead on, right? But they'll just keep dying over and over and over, and the thing about it is, man, even Jesus walked away from the crowds at times, and the thing about it is, man, is you can only try and bring somebody in front of the Lord, pray for them to have an experience, and that's as far as we can go, because the only person that's going to change their mind is that person individually, and some of these people,
brother, I do.
Go ahead.
I appreciate the encouragement, man. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, you all.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good.
Also, would like to thank you for being there. Or I agree that there are so many deceivers, so many false prophets. Just like Jesus Christ said, just like Revelation said, and also about earthquakes and floods and things. I've been observing it for years, and anybody can check the statistics. It's going up like unbelievably, and we are living in the last days. That's for sure. I have had prophetic dreams. I have had the word of God, and I know that time is short and that it's just some years, and many of us here will see it with our own eyes, what Jesus talked about, and we will see the mark of the beast and all those things, terrible tyranny.
Well, listen, I do. Thank you for the words of encouragement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. SORC. I don't know how to say your name.
Hey, what's up? It's up.
What's up, brother? You doing all right?
Yeah, I been watching your content a little bit. I'm a little bit of a fan. I am an atheist. Now, I have I've got an argument, but other people go first. I'm doing the dishes right now.
Okay, sure. Low tier. What's up, brother?
Hey, man, what's up?
Man, hanging in there, brother. Hanging in there. You got something on the topic you'd like to bring up?
Yeah. Why do you think evolution is false?
Great question. I believe in microevolution. I just don't have enough room to put everything up there, obviously. So I believe in microevolution. I think that's testable and observable. But all the other different kinds of evolution, obviously, are inferred and not observed.
Yeah. What's the difference between micro and macro evolution?
Microevolution would be genetic trait isolation, either encouragement or discouragement, and then macroevolution would be genetic information gain. Genetic because you have to be able to pass it on to your children, new information as far as new structures, new functions, new code, new DNA, and then obviously it'd have to be gained from something that wasn't there. That's genetic information gain.
Okay, and why don't you believe in macroevolution?
Because it's not testable and observable. Every bit of evidence they always give me is either an example of micro, or they use degradation and claim that it's still evolving. So every bit of the information that I've always seen is not testable and observable. It's all inferred.
Okay, so you just completely reject any kind of like inference.
No, not necessarily. It just we can look at the evidence and I'll give you a prime example. When we look at the Morrison Formation and the Hells Creek Formation, right? This one dinosaur boneyard that goes from Mexico all the way across the United States and into Canada. When I hear evolutionists talk about this, they say that it's millions of years of individual or small groups of dinosaurs getting unalived, rotting, and then getting covered up by sediment in small local floods. Okay, then when I look at this evidence from the creationist side, they say that this was one event of unaliving. These dinosaurs were sorted out by body density type in the flood, obviously. They got laid down, and as the water washed over them, they covered them up with sediment, and that's why they're fossilized. So which model makes the least amount of assumptions? Well, I can make some predictions based off of that model. The creation model would say that because it was only 4,500 years ago, we should still find collagen, soft tissue, and DNA fragments in dinosaurs. So it fits my model because that's clearly what we're finding. It does not fit the evolutionary model.
If I might jump in, would like to recommend this documentary movie on AOC Network. The title is The Scientific Truth About Creation, Flood and Evolution, the Ark and Darkness movie. It's really excellent. I really recommend it to anybody, believers, non-believers. You'll just get the, data, information from real scientists, not the paid scientists. So, thanks.
Have you ever Googled why? Have you ever Googled, whenever you have this hypothesis in your mind, have you ever Googled what the, a scientist would say? Like the reasoning behind why, and what doesn't convince you about, because I just Googled it, right? And it just says
it says iron cross-linking, doesn't it?
What's that?
It says iron cross-linking, right?
No. All I'm saying is when you Google it, it just goes like a unique molecular shielding. Yeah, it just says stuff like this that leads to it being less, it doesn't degrade as fast.
Sure.
Right.
So when you go to this is fun. I love doing this because when you ask Google what the mechanism is to preserve this soft tissue or DNA to 65 million years, it'll tell you what you just said. It's either going to bring up you a matrix system, or it's going to say that it's iron cross-linking. And then when you ask it for a source, if you like right now that we can test it out, ask it for a peer-reviewed source that information you're getting. Will you do that for me?
Yeah, what's the source for, you said iron cross linking?
I don't want to push you towards a source. So you can ask Google why is this being preserved for 65 million years, and then ask it for a source when it gives you the answer. I don't want to push you towards anything.
Why does
see what it goes.
collagen in dinosaurs resist degradation? We'll just say that.
I kind of like you hosts because obviously we come from very different backgrounds, but it seems like you're actually approaching this in kind of good faith. You don't do so much sensationalism and like grandstanding as much as I see other people doing bad faith tactics all the time.
Yeah,
I really am trying to lead people to Christ. Yeah.
Molecular cross-linking.
Now ask it for the source.
Okay. And
what's the source material?
Yeah. What's the source material for this claim? MIT chemists explore or explain why dinosaur collagen might have survived. The hunt for proteins in dinosaur fossils. PMC, NIH. How dinosaurs put proteins in long-term storage. You have like a Reddit post. You have American Chemical Society, why dinosaur collagen might have staying power. You have Institute for Creation Research. Organic residue is 247 million years old. It just seems like a lot of stuff's from like the NIH. and like the reason why, which I think if we just reject the NIH because it doesn't agree with us, I don't think that would be very probably good.
Yeah. So if usually when you ask it for the peer-reviewed scientific paper source, it'll take you to, and it's giving you a lot, which is great. So it doesn't work all the time, but it's actually giving you creation scientists, which is funny. That's never happened before when I'm talking to people up here. But it'll take you to a paper called the iron cross-linking. Actually, that theory come from the lady who actually found the soft tissue, called Mary Schweitzer. And if you go to that peer-reviewed scientific paper, the reason why I was trying to show you this is because Google says this is the method that gets it out to 65 million years. But when you go to the paper says that this isn't the method. It says we don't know what it is that can get it out to 65 million years. In fact, the abstract says the persistence of original soft tissue in Mesozoic fossil bone is not explained by current chemical degradation models. So what they did is they took iron-rich blood and they put it on a control, or they put it on a piece of meat that had a control with it. One was soaked in iron-rich ostrich blood and the other one wasn't. And they did the test for 2 years, and there's no doubt that it did preserve it for longer, but it can't get it out to 65 million years. And they admit in the abstract that they do not have a degradation model that can get them out to 65 million years. In other words, simple English, they don't know how to get the collagen of the dinosaurs getting found with soft tissue. They don't understand what's preserving it for 65 million years because it goes against their degradation models. AKA, that means it's not 65 million years old, so it fits the flood model better.
Wait. Well, that's not true. That's not true exactly. Right? Let's say let's say we have two hypotheses. Right? We have one where it's like so we have the creation hypothesis, which is going to be 4,500 years or 6,000 years, 7,000, something around that many years. I'll just say like that. And then we go, well, we can't get exactly to 65 million. That does not immediately equate to saying, well, this one's more probable now because we can't get to 65 million years. Well, how far out did they get exactly? Because if they got out past the creation range, then it's not evidence for creationism. It would actually be antithetical to creationism.
Oh,
how
sure.
far
So
did they
what's
get
the
out
rate?
past creationism?
I'm just asking how far. I'm telling you, they haven't put it. No, let me tell you specifically, so I'm not misrepresenting it. They're not putting a degradation claim out there, period. Now, clearly, in my opinion, I think they know what it is. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theory, but there's no way that you're going to the name of the paper is literally a role iron and oxygen chemistry in preserving soft tissue cells in molecules from deep time. That's the name of the paper. So you're telling me now that they did the study, they got it to preserve 2 years longer than what they expected, and they didn't give you a degradation rate? So clearly, I think they know what the rate is, and they're stating that this can't get out to 65 million years, but we don't know what the degradation rates are. None of these paper give you the half-life of this iron cross-linking. None of them. If anybody can find that, I would be encouraged to look at it because I've studied it and I've looked for it for days. I cannot find one single paper that talks about these preservation methods and giving a half-life. So we don't know. So we don't know if it goes past the creation model or not. But here's what I can tell you. The newer papers are actually finding DNA fragments, and we know the half-life of that is 500 years. So that clearly fits the creation model. You can't get DNA fragments out that long.
If I could just ask, I'm trying to do some back research here. What's the location of these fossils that you're saying?
It's one of the bad. It's in the United States. There, it's Arizona or Michigan or what? Hold on. I'll find out. Let me find out.
Yeah.
Do you
know what era, or at least what scientific era
T-Rex.
they're claiming to be from?
It's a T-Rex bone. So what is that? Cretaceous, I think.
I think Jurassic, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know my dinosaurs that well.
So, host, I have a question for you, sir, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
So you, from what I'm hearing, I'm assuming that you do believe in dinosaurs? Like that dinosaurs
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
it was in the
so
Hills Creek Formation.
Right.
Sorry,
so
go ahead.
Creek
Formation. Thank you.
So in Scripture, does it speak ever of dinosaurs? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Job 40.
So right.
Now you can go a couple. There's several different mentions of dragons, and then Job 40 talks about Behemoth, and then Job 41 talks about Leviathan. I think that these are clearly dinosaur. Behemoth is absolutely a dinosaur. It's very, very clear that it's a sauropod dinosaur. Leviathan could be described as a dragon, but then other parts in the Bible, when it's talk about dragon, I would say that's synonymous. They didn't have the word dinosaur hadn't been invented yet. So obviously they're not going to call them dinosaurs,
Right.
but when you look at their description, I think that that's what they're describing. Clearly,
So-
Behemoth 100%.
So now, do you believe in the Nephilim?
Do I believe in the Nephilim? Yeah, I believe in them, but I don't know what they were, and I don't think anybody else does either.
Well, it spoke of that there were giants, and there was giants
it's-
in those times, and Canaanites, and
Yeah, but
all that.
I don't. Yeah, it does say that, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that they're just mighty men, or if they were actually really, really tall people, or if they were actual giant. The Bible really only mentions it once in Genesis 6. It refers back to it again in Numbers. The one in Numbers is referring back to the one in Genesis. So the word Nephilim is only in the Bible twice. But again, like I said, the one in Numbers is referring back to the one in Genesis. So, and literally all it says is that there were giants in the earth in those days. That's literally all it says. So I don't know what it means.
Right. So when David fought Goliath, was Goliath a Nephilim, or was Goliath?
No, he was they called him a giant because of his large stature, but they did not use the Hebrew word Nephilim.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Okay, if I could bring up a point that I'm kind of developing here.
Okay.
We have, there's a couple of evidences of major extinction events that occurred within the last 100,000 years. You had the megafauna extinction. I'm talking in terms of, I don't know what non-creationist would be called. But assuming that we have these things that happened, these major extinction events, I'm going to go with the megafauna extinction, which is the Pleistocene. So from the Pleistocene extinction, we have a lot of fossils from that time period that were found in Australia, which I'm looking at specifically. It's a species called the Thylacoleo carnifex. And in terms of fossil records of those, we have in the tens of thousands of Thylacoleo carnifex, which is the marsupial lion. There's a ton of those fossils that are remaining from that extinction event. That's an extinction event that we know happened. And so if dinosaurs died off that recently, I feel like when you point at an individual species, you'd likely find a significantly similar amount of fossils in dinosaurs, like the T-Rex. But while we have sites in Australia right now that have yielded almost 11, one specific site, the Null Arbor Plain, has yielded at least 11 nearly complete skeletons and numerous other remains, and that is in one specific site. Whereas worldwide, we've only discovered around 10-ish incomplete Tyrannosaur fossils, T-Rex fossils, with fewer than 100 individuals. No complete T-Rex skeleton has ever been found. But we have fewer than 100. And so that to me tells me that there's some kind of
really rubbed and get all.
Go ahead.
It's all good. But do you see what I'm saying? Whereas if they had died off more recently, we would have a pretty significant amount of skeletons compared to something that we empirically know died off much more recently. There would be like a T-Rex frozen in the glaciers or something like that, like we have with woolly mammoths. But but a lot of these animals would have been unalived where they're at. So the flood was only the flood overall was on the planet for a year, but Noah hit dry ground he landed and didn't get out for over a year, but he landed in the 4th month.
So that means that the water came up, excuse me, it came up, covered the hills, and then almost immediately started going back down, because the purpose of the flood was just to unalive all of the land animals and stuff. And that's what it did, right? So, but Noah landed in the 4th month. So there wouldn't have been time for all of this universal mixing all over the planet like people think. It takes you 3 months just to cross the Atlantic from the United States over to Africa, right? It takes 3 months just to do that with wind. So naturally, they wouldn't have been all of this mixing like everybody thinks. It would have been the animals, I would imagine, that are in that area would probably stay somewhere around that area, because they're going to get sorted out in there. So
Okay.
I would imagine that's why that happened.
That's fair, but then how do you explain the?
Address bone theory. I was going to address your bone theory. Hold on, I was going to address your bone theory.
All right.
There's actually worms that eat bones in the ocean. There are worms that specifically eat bones, and they dissolve it. There's also fungi, bacteria, and other I'm forgetting the name. I think it's Saphidophores. I'll think of the name in a minute. But there's plenty of worms, bacteria, and fungi that actually digest bones specifically.
Yeah, no,
so that would be why. Let's say that the bones of that creature you're speaking of in Australia, the bones of that creature are not very rich. They're not as rich as the bones of the T-Rex. They're not as. There's also when you have parasites, certain parasites can invade your bones and make your bones very, very like brittle and weak, and they can start to dissolve your bones while you're still alive. So there's certain bacteria, fungi, and other I'll think of the name in a minute, but what kind of creature it's called. So it's but there's these specific worms that eat bones, and so them being in the water is really bad, because some of the worms that eat bones, a lot of them live actually in the water. They live in fresh water and they live in salt water. So if the whole world is covered by water and these worms that live in water eat bones, that might be why it's hard to find the bones of the things that happened pre-flood.
So then, but the problem then would be, you're saying that the bones of the Thylacoleo carnifex, the marsupial lion, I'm butchering that name for sure, but you're saying that they'd be less rich, that they wouldn't want to eat them. So would there be something that I could compare that to, like a?
Well, a lot of those aren't they like in permafrost or the tar pits? I'm pretty sure that's up that way, what you're talking about, right?
No, it's actually just it's just a site in Australia called the what's it called?
Oh.
The Nullarbor Plain. It's in Australia, so there's no permafrost or anything like that.
Okay, I
but
thought you were talking
up,
about the mountain lion deal.
And also the things that like to eat bones may not live in that area of the world. There may be less of them in that area. Like, certain organisms only live in certain areas. So the areas that were occupied by dinosaurs may have been the areas that's more heavily occupied by the type of worms and other things that eat bones of what I'm talking about. Also, there could have been certain things, because of difference in genetics or difference in nutrition, there may have been something that was very nutritious to those particular types of organisms in that part of the world. So there's a lot of things you can ask for why a lot of bones showed up in one place versus another. Like that. That's not.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Let me do some research real quick. I'm gonna try and see if I can pull up some dinosaurs that were kind of more centralized in Australia, and see if we can compare that, or even like a reptile from around the period that I'm saying that everything died out. I don't know the name of the major extinction event, but I'll get back to you and do some research.
I'll tell you something creepy regarding the bones. Humans, we actually have humans I know humans in America, for example, some parts of America, they have strontium-90 in their bones. It's a metal that likes to get into your bones, and it's called strontium-90. So a lot of people actually have strontium-90 in their bones, and it's freaking crazy. So just what I'm saying, like, if you let's say you're in an area that has a certain chemical makeup, these creatures they may not like strontium-90, so they wouldn't eat my bones. But some guy from Europe, let's say he doesn't have strontium-90, and they eat his bones. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, just bones not being there isn't an implication of time, but it also, we got to look at the reason why the bones were left alone in the first place. So it's a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
let me-
variables there.
Yeah, outstanding. So let me answer this comment before we get too far. When I was talking about the ark floated around for 4 months, it landed in the 7th month, but it floated for 4 months. If we look in the Bible right here, it says in Genesis 7:17, it says, "And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth." Okay, so we see 40 days that when the water started to come, it took 40 days for the ark. So that's 1 month. If we go back a couple of verses before that, it says in Genesis, well, I just lost my place. That shall make it. I lost my place. Hold on.
You're good.
In the same day, all the fountains of the deep. Okay, so here it is. Genesis 7:11. It says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, and in the 2nd month." So we know that the ark lifted off the ground. And if we're doing our months now, January, February, March, it lifted off the ground in the 3rd month, and it came to rest in the 7th month. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So we know that the ark was only floating for 4 months. That's where I got that number.
Okay, because I thought it said that the ark came to rest on the 7th month, the 17th day of the month.
It did, but it didn't lift off the ground until the 3rd month. Excuse me.
When you made the statement "fountains of the deep," you notice how when you made that statement "fountains of the deep," that doesn't just indicate that it was raining. Fountains of the deep indicate that water came from underneath as well. So fountains of the deep, not fountains of the air. It says fountains of the deep. So we actually have 400 meters down. We have this stuff called ringwoodite, and ringwoodite carries water within its matrix. And they said there's more water in the matrix of the ringwoodite that's 400. I think it's 400 miles down. They said that there's more water in the matrix of that ringwoodite than all the oceans that currently occupy the earth. But if you talk to any environmental scientist, if the polar ice caps melt, that will raise the water level by 50 feet, right? But if you have this ringwoodite that has 3 times as much water as all the oceans on Earth, that is far more water than just the ice caps melting. So where would all that water go other than back underneath the fountains of the deep where it came from whenever said time was over? But I thought it was amazing that they had ringwoodite under the earth, and scientists are claiming it holds 3 times as much water as all of Earth's oceans. That's wild. But those scientists are not Christians. They're atheists. They're not Christian scientists.
Can I revisit my bone discrepancy from earlier? Would that be all right?
Sure. Yeah, man.
Okay. So I went to I researched some Australian species here. And another megafauna that died out during the late Pleistocene megafauna extinction, which is 50,000 to 10,000 years ago. Which is around when you're saying, right? Because you're saying 45,000 years ago is your estimate?
No, 4,500 years ago. Not even close.
4,500 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be using I'm still just going to be using the megafauna, the late Pleistocene megafauna extinction just as a basis, because it's supposed to be 50,000 to 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
Because it's technically a more recent one. So one megafauna that went extinct was a reptile called the Meolania. It was a horned turtle. And there's been hundreds of fossils that have been found of them across Australia, Asia, and the Pacific. It's a fairly common fossil because it died out fairly recently, and so the fossils haven't degraded as much. However, there's like a species of Australian raptor that was discovered, estimated to be around, let me see what era this is supposed to be from. Actually, I don't have it pulled up what era this is supposed to be from, but it's assumedly, dinosaur age, millions of years ago. I can look up a specific estimate if you want. But they only have one complete skeleton of this raptor. It's called the Australubinator, which is the dumbest name I've ever heard. But they only have one fossil of this, compared to something that died out relatively more recently, which would have been about 50,000 to 10,000 years ago, which was the Maolania. How do you explain the lack of then the lack of raptor fossils compared to how many Maolania fossils we have? Because that is both.
I got you.
localized
Couldn't I
to
do the same
Australia.
thing? Right. So again, I believe that all the bones wouldn't be mixed up, so they would probably be somewhere where they get buried at is probably somewhere around the area they lived, obviously, because like I said, the waters that Noah's boat only floated for 4 months. So I'm sure the dinosaurs and everything unalive didn't float around much more than that. So they would probably be localized in their little groups anyway. But I could say the same thing if I took that same logic and then put it towards the Hell's Creek Formation or something. And I would say, hey, we only find this because they find ducks and regular mammals and stuff like that within the formations of dinosaurs. That's there. So then they conclude that ducks are 65 million years old. They don't change the theory. But so imagine that I used your logic, which you said that they found this dinosaur. It's really old, so it doesn't appear to be preserved. But this lion, if you will, reptile turtle, it's newer, so a lot of its bones are more fresh. What if I said, well, the Hell's Creek Formation appears to have only a lot of dinosaurs, and it only has a couple of ducks in it. So therefore, that means that the ducks clearly have to be older because they're clearly not as well preserved as all these dinosaurs that we see.
Let me look that up. Let me see if there were any more recent.
My point is that you're using the majority and not in a majority argument. So you're saying that there's more of these fossils, so therefore they have to be younger, and there's only one dinosaur that we found, so therefore it has to be older, and that fits our timeline. But we can come over here to the Hell's Creek Formation, we can see the exact opposite. Most of them are dinosaur fossils, and then we find an occasional fossil outside of that, like a duck. Like I mentioned that specifically. That doesn't mean the ducks are older because the dinosaur bones preserved longer or better, right? It wouldn't mean that. So the argument just for that is where I'm showing you that it wouldn't stand. It wouldn't matter. It may be an oddity, but it wouldn't prove one's older than the other.
If I might jump in.
Yeah.
So in the sediment, you have also both sea creatures and land creatures mixed together. Thank you.
In some places, yeah, you absolutely do.
I've found shark teeth on the hill near my house. Like that's yeah.
Well, and so one of the big things we look at when it comes to kind of dating when these creatures lived is how far down in the layers of sediment, that have solidified into rock are. So obviously, the lower down in these layers, the older they are. Now, these formations of layers, they take millions of years to settle.
Let him get it out. We can hear both sides of the argument over here. No problem. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good, man. So because these layers take so long, we can also see, kind of estimate. I won't say this proves this.
They are created those years
hold on a second. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm gonna remove you. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that, guys. Come on. We're gonna show some respect in here. We can hear both sides of the argument, okay, guys? We can hear the guys that disagree with us just as much as we can that people that agree with us. So, brother, I apologize again. I went ahead and booted her, so you can get your point out, brother. Go ahead.
You're all good. So, the thing is, we can also kind of guess how long some of these, eras were based on the thicknesses of these layers. And so the reason why we find land and sea creature fossils, in similar rock layers is because throughout that era, throughout that layer, sea levels rise or fall. And, so there are parts in, continental USA where we find shark fossils pretty far inland. The reason for that is because millions of years ago, sea levels were way higher and most of this was underwater. So I wanted to point out the fact that the reason that, we are kind of able to take our first guess as to how long ago these things lived is due to the depth of which these things were buried.
All right, so let me address that right there, because
absolutely.
I understand the model that it shows, the geologic column, but that's not necessarily true, because you see that these dinosaur bone beds are actually at the top of the surface right here, like the Morrison Formation, the Hells Creek Formation. The reason why we know about them is not because somebody was digging and actually found one. It's because they're clearly eroding away and they're at the top of the surface now. So they're not very deep. Although I do understand the model. And a lot of places on the earth, they say that, okay, well, the model goes like this. So evolution started off from bacteria, and then it goes into crustaceans like the Cambrian explosion. And then it goes, the next layer above that, we find fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal, and then birds, obviously. And so they say, well, because we find them not everywhere consistently like that, but I would say the majority of the time you can probably find them in that order. Well, that would also fit the flood model, because crustaceans are going to be buried first, because if you have a landslide, even underwater, the very lowest points on Earth where you have these landslides, you're gonna have crustaceans at the bottom, because that's where they live. Then the next layer above that, you're going to find fish, because that's where they live. And then the next layer above that, you're going to find amphibians, because that's where they live. So imagine I went to Ripley's aquarium, right? And they have all of these sea creatures inside this aquarium. And I start filling up the aquarium with sediment. And then it displaces the water and pushes all the water out, but it buries all the animals. You're going to come in there, 1,000 years from now, and you're going to dig it up, and you're going to find the crustaceans at the bottom. You're going to find the fish in the next layer. Then you're going to find the amphibians above that. And on the very top, you're going to find reptiles, mammals, and birds, because that's the order that they live, not the order that they evolved. So we would make the same prediction as far as the column is concerned. Now, to show you that these things are not millions of years apart, because we believe that the geologic column was laid down during Noah's flood, is called hydrologic sorting. Are you familiar with what they call polystrate fossils?
I've heard the term. I haven't read too much into that specifically. But
yeah, you can just Google polystrate fossils, and it's fossilized trees that go through many different layers. So clearly these layers cannot be millions of years apart if you have a tree that's connecting all of them.
Okay, all right. If I may, I'd like to reply to your argument about the settlement.
That's called the
sure.
So I absolutely get the crustaceans stuff being at the bottom going up, and we do see that depending on areas and stuff like that. But we also find bird fossils. We find all of these creatures in these layers. So there is a change between each layer of some animals, because some animals they remain unchanged for longer periods of time. So you look at sharks, and sharks have remained unchanged for 400 some odd million years. Some species. Anyway.
Yeah, but it always goes against the predictions, though, because that no disrespect to the evolutionists, but that's what happens. So, like Archaeopteryx, they predicted Archaeopteryx was the change between reptiles and birds until, they found birds in lower sediment layers than Archaeopteryx. So Archaeopteryx clearly wasn't the missing link. So that's why most people's backed off of that argument, because there's been modern regular birds found in layers lower than Archaeopteryx.
True, and that's one of the things I love about science is that we do make predictions. A lot of people, and especially people who are more scientifically based, a lot of people say that, science is concrete proof of stuff. Not necessarily. Science deals in evidence, So we have a claim that we kind of stick to for a while until something comes along to change it. Then we go, we were wrong about that. Turns out this is so-and-so. You know what I mean?
So they do that within reason. I will grant you that. That's how it's supposed to work. But I can give you concrete examples like dinosaur soft tissue and DNA fragments to where as long as the model doesn't threaten the 65 or millions or billions of years, if the model threatens those evolution, as long as it doesn't threaten evolution, yeah, you're right, they can change their model. But if it threatens evolution, they will not change it. And I give you an example of dinosaur soft tissue and DNA. It can't last millions of years, and still they're keeping the model. That's not how science works.
If I could jump in here, I think it's more so, it's not so much a denial of fact as it's an air of plausibility. Simply because this is just kind of, what would I say, like speculative. But it's just like, in terms of science, there's nothing concrete. This is semantic. That's what I was going for. science will tend to go towards evolution because we have more evidence towards it, in the sense of random evolution, in the sense of virus.
You're going very fast. You're going very fast, and that's not correct, sir. Science does not go towards evolution. We have never seen. Hold on. We've never seen the beginning of evolution, which is abiogenesis. We've never seen chemistry evolve into biology. We've never seen chemistry turn into a protein, an RNA, or a phospholipid. We have not seen that, and we have tried to replicate it many times. We have put all the elements that make these things I just mentioned together. We've taken these non-living chemicals and we put them together. We put carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur together, hydrogen. It didn't turn into an RNA. It didn't turn into a protein. It didn't turn into a phospholipid. What we did get was monomers. We got amino acids, we got nucleotides, and they say, well, that's turning into life. No, amino acids are not alive. It's a carbon molecule with an NH group, that's the amine group, and an acid group on the top. That's all it is. It is, and there's an R group that defines it at the bottom. But none of that is alive. Nucleotides are not alive. Nucleotides are components and they're monomers, but they do not join by themselves and turn into RNA. They do not join by themselves and turn into proteins. They stay separate. Every single time we've done this, we don't get all of them, by the way. We get a few amino acids. And by the way, I'll tell you the biggest thing when we try to, when we make these amino acids in the lab, guess what we get? We get 50-50 chirality. Since you know what you're talking about, since I presume you know what you're talking about, you understand what I mean by 50-50 chirality, right?
No, I have no idea what that means. This feels very ad hominem.
They're left-handed, right-handed.
So it's not. Yeah, this is not ad hominem.
Wait, hang on. Left-handed, right-handedness is a thing that got disproven.
So
hold on. I'll let you respond. Hold on. I'll let you respond. Let him land, and then I'll let you respond.
Okay.
So first of all, when we make these synthetically, when we try to make synthetic amino acids from a non-living system or nucleotides, we get left and right-handed, and that's really bad because life only uses left-handed amino acids to make proteins, and life only uses right-handed DNA and RNA. It does not use left-handed DNA and RNA to interact with life at all. It does not use left-handed and right-handed proteins. If you get any of this, any of what I'm talking about of nucleotides, it will not allow RNA or DNA to form. It will not allow proteins to form, and they won't fold. So an unfolded protein is nothing. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. All chirality in a completely random universe, we've proven this in the lab. In a completely random universe, we should see 50-50 chirality in living systems. We don't. We only see left-handed proteins and right-handed DNA and RNA. So,
but we know that
never
the
seen
universe
life come from non-life.
We do actually know that the universe favors one specific side of chirality. I'm now coming back to something that you're talking about. There's a really famous quantum. Can you let me finish?
Hold on, Azrael. Let him land now.
Okay.
There was a really famous experiment in quantum physics. I believe it was using cobalt. Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just kind of interested in quantum physics. But it did actually prove. I believe there was a left-handed skew. I can pull up. I can pull up the direct research right now. But what you're talking about is kind of an equilibrium that did get disproven. It really shook up the quantum physics world. It was a big thing. There's a whole ton of drama behind it, but left-handedness, there was actually some proof to that in quantum physics. I can pull it up because, yeah, you're right. In a laboratory setting, it makes no sense, but in a quantum physics setting, you do actually start to get left-handedness.
And even if it was to, I'm sorry, was you done? I thought you stopped.
No, that you're good. I was just going to keep spitballing. Go ahead.
I gotcha. So even if it was, like you said, leaning towards one or the other, I kind of got the point as to mean that, and I've seen atheists down there telling people that we have replicated abiogenesis, which is hilarious. No, we haven't. So when he said that they're creating amino...
You're well, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, that's what I get. I've already had it, 3 times? I have to mark it down so I can go back later and bleep it out. Because that's what atheists do. They come in here and cuss me out because they don't like Christian lives. I expect that from 16-year-olds, but not grown people.
don't take wide shots at us like that, man. That's a.
I'm not atheist.
Well,
there's Christians that I'm sure you hate too. What about?
Well, I don't hate them. I'm just saying they hate me and come in here and cuss me out. But yeah, it's not everybody. It's not everybody.
Yeah, I mean.
But
so what I was saying in the
anyway
setting, he missed. Okay.
No, go ahead.
He misquoted what I. He misquoted what I said. I was saying that in the laboratory when they try to make this synthetically, they do get left-handed and right-handed amino acids. They get left-handed and right-handed DNA and RNA. But in nature, none of that exists. They don't. You don't have left-handed and right-handed DNA in nature. You only have right-handed DNA and RNA. You only have left-handed proteins. But in the lab, when you make it synthetically, you do get left-handed and right-handed from synthetic sources, which proves that if you're making it yourself in the lab and you're getting left-handed and right-handed amino acids, but in nature the only thing that exists is left-handed or right-handed. There's never a mix of chirality, and when you do mix the chirality,
you're literally dude, you
and that's number 4.
Number 4.
So what I was saying is it just doesn't fold into anything. That's why I told y'all they don't join together. When you get those, like mutant array was one of the best examples, because you do get a few amino acids, but the amino acids didn't come together and turn into a protein. That's what you always get. You get some amino acids, which are monomers, and you get some nucleotides. You never get an RNA. You never get a protein. And even if you did an RNA, and I'm gonna tell you something, even if you did in those experiments, you would never get to see the RNA because it would be destroyed by the very environment that spawned it, because RNA is destroyed by pHs above 6, water, heat, sunlight, magnesium ions, all that kind of stuff destroys RNA. And the protein would be unfolded. And that's the biggest issue with abiogenesis. A non-specific protein spawning in the primordial ooze would be a non-specific unfolded protein, which means it would do nothing. Anyway, I'll land.
Right. I agree with you that it's definitely somewhat evolution. To some degree, I almost feel like these guys are like false flagging, because I have never in my life have I met an atheist who's actually like this. This is pissing me off. But
come to my page, brother. This is normal. This is not anything outside of the normal.
Dawson, on this app right here, Dawson, let me respond real quick to what you said, just very quick. Dawson, do you know on this app that I've had atheists call me a baboon, call me a monkey, call me all these racist names, right? And that was in response to abiogenic research. But if I'm a monkey because of abiogenesis, that would mean they're a monkey too.
I think that's a very loud, small group. I don't want to be. I don't mean to like.
You don't want to.
You don't got to take up from brother. I'm a big boy. I don't. It doesn't. They're hating on me. All they're doing is giving me rewards when I get on the other side of the fence, brother. That's all they're doing for me. So as much as they come in here and hate on me, this is the same. It sounds like the same guy now. It sounds like the same guy.
The last 3. He's got like 3 accounts.
Yeah.
So I agree that it's kind of a discrepancy, but I would, to some degree, yeah, it's definitely strange. Life remains kind of a mystery to us. That's something that I don't think science has a proper answer for. But I would say that if something kind of developed that sustained itself off of left-handed amino acids, it would develop ways to create left-handed amino acids without creating right-handed amino acids. In a laboratory setting, when you're just titrating particles into each other, obviously you're going to get, an equal dispersion of each side. But when you I lost my train of thought here. But do you get what I'm saying? Where it's like if something relied off of it, it would likely develop kind of ways similar to, microevolutions. Microevolutions evolve ways to sustain themselves, and so if you've got something that lives off of, man.
So let me.
Okay, I'll let you interject then.
No, go ahead. I'm getting ready to move on. So
Okay,
before I do, go ahead and get your
yeah,
point.
I know. Yeah. All I was gonna say is the biggest issue is, remember what I said. I told you the probability was super low earlier with the 1 in 10 to the power 272 and 1 in 10 to the power 75. But at the end of that, I step on it. You see what I'm saying? I gave you a probability, and at the end of it, I stepped on it with my dirty Air Force Ones, okay? And what happens is that protein, I'm serious, the protein that forms is going to be non-specific and unfolded. There's no chaperone proteins in a naked environment where remember, it's a 1 in 10 to the power 272. Okay, we got a protein, but the protein's unfolded. There's no chaperone proteins to help it fold. There's no endoplasmic reticulum, there's no ribosome, there's nothing to help that protein fold. The RNA, there's nothing to protect it. The RNA is destroyed by hydrolysis. pH is above 6. The average pH of the ocean is 8.2. That is, I didn't even know the ocean was that high, but it's 8.2. It's actually very, very alkaline, and it would destroy the RNA because of its alkalinity. The magnesium ions released by the deep sea hydrothermic vents would
you're
destroy
assuming
it.
that
Everything would destroy
But
it.
you're assuming that the seas when this was taking place are the same as they are now, and they're not.
That's what I was going to say, is that you're assuming that the pH of the ocean has remained static,
which it hasn't.
Well, it's uniformitarianism is what y'all believe in, not us. So I think it's a reasonable assumption to say y'all believe that things that you're gonna say that the oceans had this different chemical makeup when it's advantageous for y'all to say that we
can prove.
Okay, how can you prove it?
Ice cores.
Ice cores prove that there was a different ocean.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and also cores from the
Sure, I got.
I'm trying to answer this question. And also mud.
Yes.
Cores from the various parts of the ocean floor.
All right, so here's the problem with that. Again, I told y'all uniformitarianism, and that's what you brought up a great point with that. So you have to assume that. Well, I'm going to show you. You have to assume that those ice cores are millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years to say that the bottom means that the ocean was different than it is today. Okay, well, how do you get that? How can we date them?
Well, you can date them.
Okay, tell me how. Do you know how?
Well, various kinds, from what I think is probably going to be your favorite way to debunk things, from carbon dating to argon dating and
so they don't do that with the ice. They don't do that with the ice. They don't use carbon or radiometric dating with ice. I do understand what you're talking about with other things they date. Right, but not the ice. They do with the ice. They do the layers, right? And then when it goes so far, and this is funny because I was studying this today, and I try not to say anything unless I got my sources ready. So what I do is I create little cheat sheets so that I can bring up my sources. I have this ready to go. I just don't have it with me right now because I was studying this today. So as far as the ice layerings, they assume that when you look so deep that you see layers in those different layerings. And so they assume that those are annual rings like you would see on a tree. But we have to be intellectually honest, that does not represent rings. That represents hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. So those could be just as easily
than that.
Well, no, it's not. It's actually
not.
Not.
It isn't just hot, cold, hot, cold,
Let
hot,
me
cold. It represents various.
Come on, Bob. Let him get his point
Okay,
across.
Bob. Yeah.
He's been respectful.
Yeah.
to
Let
us.
me land it, and then I'll show you. So those layerings is exactly what they assume those are. They assume that those are seasonal layerings, meaning that the snow compacted on top of it, and then you had a compression, which causes a line. But there's a certain level that it gets to, a scientific name. After so far down, there's so much weight on top of it that those air bubbles, those lines that you see, become compressed to where they can't count them anymore. So what they do on top of that is they take a look at the different chemical compositions within it. Like, for example, they look and they find ash from a volcano. Okay, well then the geologic column says that this volcano over here erupted 2 million years ago. So then they say, well, that line in there clearly must be from 2 million years ago. So again, it's circular logic. You already have to assume that the geologic column is correct. You have to assume that the dating technique on the volcano was correct to say that this line in there means it. Now I can give you, I wish I had it with me. Like I said, I'm not necessarily ready. I could probably Google it if you want, but they made some predictions before they did. It's the GILT or something like that core sample where they took over in Greenland, if I'm not mistaken. It's the deepest. They made some predictions that it was going to be at least 200,000 years old by the models that they made. Now, we've actually done the core samples now, and do you know what the actual time they say it is now?
Sorry, we've done the core samples. You've done the core samples, have you?
Well, no, I'm talking about us as mankind, brother. I think I can still put myself in that. Yeah. So regardless, they say that it's 110,000 years old. So they were only off by 90,000 years. I think that's a pretty big margin when you was expecting 200,000 and you got 100,000. Right, that's you're off on your prediction by a lot.
4,500 years before the birth of Christ, isn't it?
Yeah, but
is it your contention that the Earth is about 6,000 years old? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah, I would say less than 10,000, but yes.
October the 4th, 4004 BC. Is that correct? Is that the calculation?
I would say it's. Yeah, I wouldn't say a specific day like that. I say it was less than 10,000, but I don't have any problem bringing that up. I'm not running from it.
Okay. Well,
so you see how I contended.
Do you know where that date is? Do you know where that date derives from?
The date that you said it, or me believing
how
that
that calculation is made?
Okay, which one? Because I said it's less than 10. You said a specific date.
The date of the Earth that's calculated according to the Bible.
Yeah, they go with the lineage. That's why I said it's less than 10, because it's not a specific Monday on November the 12th. It's not that specific.
Yeah, but it is.
They go by the lineage.
The calculation has been made quite specific based on the lineages. That makes
the lineages.
Yeah, based on the lineages and all the calculation from the Bible.
It would be about 6,000 years old. You are correct. That's if you calculate the lineages.
It is quite specific.
Yeah, brother, but here's what I'm saying. Bob, here's what I'm saying, brother, is that the reason why I say less than 10,000 is because I don't know when they started the clock to say for time, and nor does nobody else, because I think, in my personal opinion, it's kind of weird to start time necessarily if you live forever. I don't think it necessarily matters how old you are when you live forever. Why would you be counting that? I'm not going to count my age when I get to heaven in eternity, right? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say, look, I'm 6,716 years old today. Woo! It doesn't matter in eternity. Now, when the Adam and Eve was first made, we clearly believe, you can say I don't believe it, but you can't say the Bible doesn't teach it, that they didn't sin, right? They didn't unalive. So was there time? That clearly there was time, but did it count? That's my point. So that's why I say that the Bible's not 100% sure. It doesn't tell us on it, is what I'm saying. So could it be? Yes, it could be. It could be actually lineage, and those days were actual 100% days. I do believe that, and that means that it's 6,000. I got no problem believing that. But I can also give it a little bit of wiggle room, because I don't know if that the time technically started as far as them counting it until after Adam sinned. I think that's also reasonable. So that's why I say less than 10,000. Okay?
That's not how the calculation is made. If you want to be
I told you how the calculations are made, and I was right.
If you want to be genuinely biblical, and
okay, let's go with it. 6,000.
It's calculated. Okay, it's very specific, in fact.
Okay, 6,000. I'm with you. Let's go with that then. What's your contention against it?
It's well, the dates. You're saying that you're allowing a little bit wiggle room, but your Bible doesn't permit that kind of wiggle room.
Well, I think that it did, but I'm not worth arguing over it.
To the scripture.
I'm not. I haven't taken away or added to it. But okay, let's go with your contention. Fine. I don't have no problem conceding.
I don't
exactly what you just said. None. 6,000
on the 10th of October, 4004 BC. But you do, or apparently.
Okay.
Because apparently you realise that whole contention is suspect. So you've added a little bit of extra wiggle room.
I haven't added it. I'm going with your contention now. I believe that it was on October the 4th, whatever you said, 6,000 years ago. Brother, do you hear me?
That's what the
I'm
biblical
giving it
scholars
to
have
you. Can we
calculated.
move on? I'm with you 100%. It's exactly what you just said on that date. I'm with you. Can we move on now? I'm 100%
Yes, do you know
in
where-
that camp
Do you
now.
know where that's derived from? That
Yes,
calculation?
I done answered that. It's from the lineages. I answered that already.
No, but you know who made that calculation?
Who made the calculation?
who made the
Moses. He's the one
calculation
that wrote the
of
book of Noah. Or the book of Noah. He wrote the book of Genesis.
No. The person who actually sat down and did the math.
Brother, I'm starting to lose patience with you. Do you have an argument we can go to, or you just want to stay on this? Because this is not getting us anywhere.
Well, you're saying that
I'm going with your
the Bible
contention.
is true, yes.
I'm going with your contention, brother. Do you have an argument you'd like to make, or is that just your point?
Yeah, I know.
You don't know?
You don't seem to know. Well, you know where the material, the evidence that you're using comes from.
Do you have an
That's a lot of
argument?
useless facts, man. A lot of useless facts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Whether you-
I know facts is
He
so
happened to be
useful.
wearing blue
Okay, Bob.
jeans
I
and
appreciate you,
slippers
Bob.
when
Next
he-
time
when he calculated that.
you come all the way up here to say that. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, man. I even went with your contention.
Babbling on about.
Yeah, I'm just saying because honestly, what he was doing, what he was doing, he wasn't making an argument that said, okay, because of this, God doesn't exist. No, that doesn't matter. The dates in the Bible don't determine whether God is real. Because the dates in the Bible don't line up with something numerical the way we want it to, doesn't prove that carbon became alive by itself. You see what I'm saying? They just have nothing to do with each other. If you're making an argument of atheism, you're making an argument of a naturalistic, materialistic universe, and you need to give scientific proof for how life would come from non-life. And all I've done is give proof of why a protein couldn't form, why RNA couldn't form, why a cell couldn't form, why a phospholipid couldn't form of its own accord. We don't see them come from we don't see them come from elements by themselves. We see it come from life, but not non-life. And if I'm making that argument, and your retort to me is, well, the Bible isn't accurate to the date that God made the world.
Yeah, how would you know?
That doesn't prove that life came from non-life. That just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't prove that. One thing doesn't prove, or it doesn't. Matter of fact, it doesn't prove or disprove the other thing. They just have nothing to do with each other.
See, and things like, the appearance of the first life on Earth, according to the fossil record, I don't know how that would have happened. So, that's why I say I'm agnostic, not atheist, because I try and be as honest can be, and that is, I don't know where the universe came from. We have theories. I don't know how life popped up on Earth. We have theories. We weren't there to be able to observe what happened. So we have our theories. And so many people go, no, it was this. Or they go, no, it was actually the opposite of that. So, and
let me
that's
say the stupidest thing. Let me say the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump in. Let me just jump in real quick. Jason, I want you to see that guy in the comment, Nick the Atheist. So, Nick, I have rules on my panel. I know you're not up here, but you're making a claim that Mary was underage, and so that is a huge claim. So you've got about 2 minutes to go ahead and support that claim, or I'm going to have Jason go ahead and ban you because now you're just being a troll. If you want to support the claim, then go ahead and support the claim, but you're not going to make that claim in the comments and then think that I'm just going to let you get by with calling, saying that she was that basically we're underage child rapists as far as the Christians are concerned. You have to support that Mary was underage, and if you don't, then I'm going to have Jason go ahead and ban you.
What up, y'all? My phone died.
Oh no! I was hoping you were gonna come back.
Murray, listen. I want to say something too. Here's the thing. I was gonna tell Murray something. You remember the host kept talking about mitochondria of Eve. How about this to blow your mind? You know, mitochondria only have 37 genes inside of them, but the nucleus in your cells codes. Listen, this is so crazy. The nucleus in your cell codes for 1,000 to 1,500 genes that belong to the mitochondria, not you. You actually code from 1,000 to 1,500 of the genes that are structurally important and important for the survival and operation of the mitochondria in your body. But those 37 genes that's inside of mitochondria only come from your mother. However, you code for 1,500 to 1,000 genes for mitochondria yourself. But they didn't come from the mitochondria that came into your body from your mom. They didn't come from your dad either. Those genes, those mitochondrial genes I'm talking about, they start off in your nucleus. but the 37 extra genes that come with the egg cell only come from your mom. Ain't that crazy? Most of the genes in your mitochondria come from you, not from your mother. That's freaking insane. When they say they call it mitochondrial Eve, they're basing it off those 37 genes. Anyway, I land.
I got you. So, Dawson, when you left, man, I was kicking myself because I've had a great conversation with you. So before you're welcome to stay. I'm not going to kick you or anything. But the reason why I do this is because, one, I want to strengthen the faith of the Christians, and two, I want to try to get individuals that's not saved. I want to try to get them saved. 100%. I'm out to get you. So my question to you, man, is what do you know about Jesus, brother?
My impression is, I mean, I've had this discussion a lot of times. I actually really enjoy discussing with theologians who believe their faith. I wouldn't say I have any particularly strong stances. I more so like this, I guess, scientific debate because I don't like the feeling that I'm trying to convince someone that their faith is incorrect or false. And it's not really what I enjoy doing, in a sense, if you get what I'm saying. I would, in all honesty, I'd prefer to keep it to the scientific debate. But I mean, if you have a point that you want to get across, then I'm open to listen.
That was it. So here's what I want to do. Like, I'm not going to shove it down your throat because then you're not going to be receptive to it, obviously. So my thing is that I love talking about science. So you keep asking the questions and I'll keep answering the best way that I can. And hopefully this will draw it to you. So my only thing now is when you're ready and you want to talk about Christ, maybe he's pricking at that heart. Maybe I plant a seed that grows. If it does, come back and holler at me, man. I'd love to lead you to Christ.
Sounds good. Are you hopping off or is this ending?
I do it. No, I'm not hopping off yet. When I have good conversations with people, I want to do that. And when your phone died, I was over here kicking myself because I didn't get to do that before you left. So now that you come back, I was like, man, let me hurry up and share Christ with him. And then we can move on. I'm not killing it yet.
But yeah, no worries. I'm charged now. My phone's back to normal.
I gotcha.
I believe we were last at ice cores. But I don't know if the conversation's moved on from that. If that's a tired point, I'm fine to move on.
Sure. Well, let me go to Murray now because he's been in here, Comcorn Collective. Murray, what you got, man?
Regarding Christ?
Yeah, that too. I'll share him with you too. Absolutely.
I mean, I've talked with Oakdale Curtis quite a lot. He's great. If you haven't had the chance to talk to him, please do. He's very informative. He shares a lot of research on the shroud. So, yeah, he's great. So we talked a little bit about it. About the subject of Christ. And where I'm at is, I don't know about the divinity thing. We have enough historical evidence to prove that he at the very least did exist. We have historical documentation of that. But, as somebody who looks at science for quite a lot of things, if not everything, of course the divinity thing it's a hard pill to swallow for me. But I don't know. So I mean I gotcha.
The same evidence that said he existed is the exact, and there is a field of science called textual criticism that looks at the text and shows us. I love that too. I could talk about that for days and days and days. But that same evidence that shows you that he was a real historical figure that walked on the planet is the exact same evidence that says that he is the Son of God that rose again from the third day. You don't get A without B. The only reason that you know that he was a historical figure is from the books that say that he is the Son of God and that he's God incarnate also, came to this planet unalive for your sins and rose again on the third day. So if I could take a look at that evidence too, man.
Absolutely. If I could jump in, I wouldn't say that's entirely true simply because we have evidence that he was executed by the Romans. That's a thing that is, I think.
Where do you get that evidence from?
I believe there's a log. I believe there's a log of executions from the Romans that states that he was executed.
If that's real, that's amazing. But the only thing I've ever heard outside of the Bible would be like Josephus.
No, we
So
we
all
do
of
have
your
a
other
log of executions from the Roman government.
that'll be pretty
He's
cool.
on there.
That would
He's on
support the
there.
Bible, right?
I would
Which
say,
makes
I mean, it supported his existence, but I wouldn't deny that he existed in the same way that I wouldn't deny that, like, Siddhartha from Buddhism existed, you know? That's why I'm never particularly willing to aspire to one specific religion, because I think most religions have proof that their main figure did exist. It's just when the
Where
other
can I
things
get
kind
this?
of pop in.
This is the first time I've heard about it, and when I'm Googling it, it just says no. So is there, where can I look up this Roman log that has the crucifixion of Christ?
You know what? I could be entirely wrong. It might just be something that I heard.
Yeah, people that have said there are logs. So I'm gonna find the people that I've talked to about it. So there are logs, and if I find you live again, I'll come back to you with with the sources for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Because the only source that I'm aware of that actually talks about that would be the Bible. Now, I would love it if they have an external source, because that would prove us even more right. But yeah, so my point is that we have these texts that say this about him. That's where they're getting the historical Christ from, is clearly the Bible. So then why would we believe A but not B about the claims that it's making?
Because it's somewhat of a slippery slope, you know? I think, let me see about Siddhartha, but it's like, if I could prove to you that Siddhartha from, like, Buddha existed, would you then accept that everything that Buddhism states about Siddhartha to be true?
No, I would. It depends. It depends on the information that you could bring me. If you could prove that this individual existed, and then that they didn't add to or any other stories like that, then yeah, I mean, I would have to take a look at the evidence. Like, for example, I don't just believe the New Testament just because they say it. I believe that, that clearly we have this religion that clearly started overnight, right? And we see this in the Gospels, that they went from being being afraid to unafraid. We see the disciples went from hiding because they thought the Roman soldiers were going to get them, then to being tortured. So something happened, even according to their own writing, something happened that clearly changed their mind. They make some pretty extraordinary claims that Jesus walked with them for 40 days after his resurrection to show that he was real. So when people say that this had to be like a vision, well, a vision appearing to people for 40 days is one heck of a vision, and then it has to be shared. Luke writes all of these historical events that we can date to the actual individuals that lived at the time. We can date some of the letters of Paul to the time that when they were written early on, meaning that the Christians could have went to these individuals. Like, the reason why Christianity exploded is because all of the witnesses. They didn't have the books at first, right? The books wasn't written until 20, 30 years after. So Christianity didn't spread because of the books. First, they spread word of mouth while the books were being written clearly. And then Luke comes along, and Luke is an investigator. When you see the book of Luke and the book of Acts, this is an individual. He's writing to an individual either named Theophilus, or it's a high-ranking individual in his rank, and that's the name of his rank was Theophilus. But he says, "O great Theophilus, I am writing so that you may be sure of the things that we talked about." So it appears that Theophilus heard about this Christianity, either heard about it or became a Christian himself and wanted to check the validity of what was going on. So he sends an investigator called Luke, and Luke writes the book of Acts and Luke's, and he writes them to this individual about the investigation that he has completed, and that's where he gathers all this information. That's why Luke is vastly different than all the other Gospels, because Luke comes out right at first and says, "I'm not a witness to this. I've interviewed the witnesses." And then he was a companion of Paul. So, and Luke, what Luke's writes about are the individuals that placed Paul on trial. Like, he names them. He names their wife. He names their daughters. He names the Jewish individuals that slapped Paul in the mouth because Paul called him a whitewashed individual. So we know that these historical names match with the historical people. So Luke got that right. And they were alive at the time when this happened, so you could go question them. So in other words, if I was an early Christian and I see these Christians running around sharing the gospel with me, saying, "Hey, this man named Jesus rose from the dead, and this guy named Paul says that he met him on the road to Damascus, and he's now being persecuted for this," because Paul was well known because he was going around unaliving the Christians. So as an early Christian, I can investigate this because everybody's alive at the time this was written. So I could go to this Roman pontiff and I could say, hey man, this guy named John over here is telling me about this guy named Paul. He's claiming to have met the risen Christ, and they said that you put him on trial. Is this true? And because the Christians can clearly put this to the test at the time, the fact that it spread showed that it was true, right? I mean, because obviously if you could go ask the individuals that's named in the paper, they would easily say, no, this is not true. This is a lie. I didn't put anybody named Paul on trial.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and I agree with the fact that Jesus Christ existed as a person, but I'm skeptical in the same way that I'm skeptical of Buddha's enlightenment that the miracles per se happened. That's my kind of statement, is that it's kind of the difference between raising someone from a actual living person to a god, in a sense. I mean, not in a sense, in a literal form.
That's fair. But when we look at the evidence, like the textual criticism, now I don't know specifically about the Buddha. I would have to look into that one. But I can show you like Islam, right? I can show you the differences between these. And I can tell you this about Buddha. There's no other book that's even comes close to the amount of textual criticism that we have to it. In other words, I can know what the original authors wrote because we have so many copies of the New Testament. It's not even close. We have 4 or 5, I think we have 4 historians that tell us about like Alexander the Great. And they have, 50, 60, whatever manuscripts it is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's vastly small compared to the Bible. Right? And we wouldn't say this about Alexander the Great. We would take what most historians said about Alexander the Great as probably true. Even though he wasn't there, we don't have any reason to disagree with it. The Bible, however, has tens of thousands of manuscripts, and it was outlawed. So most mainstream scholars, I would imagine, I don't want to put an absolute on it, but the ones I've read anyway go to the fact that this probably means there were probably up to 1 million manuscripts because it was outlawed. You couldn't have it on you. So the fact that tens of thousands of them survived and they were made out of a grass material called papyri, then you wouldn't, for tens of thousands of them to have survived, that means there probably was 1 million that didn't survive because that's how rare it is. And we have tens of thousands of copies of the New Testament. And they went all over the Mediterranean there. Some went to Greece, some went to Italy, some went to Rome, some went to Israel, some went to Egypt. So we see that it went all over the known world right there. And then eventually it went into King James Version of the Bible that literally went all over the world. But my point is that I can check these manuscripts and I can see that they haven't changed. I can check the manuscript that's in Alexandrian Egypt for the most part, and I can check it to the manuscript that went to Rome. And I can check the copies of the copies of the copies of the copies that's hundreds of years apart from each other, that's been copied probably thousands of times, and I can still see that they still say the same thing on both ends. That's pretty amazing.
No, yeah, I agree that it's really amazing, but I wouldn't take popularity as proof as proof of truth. You have plenty of popular ideas that Alexander the Great is one that you mentioned, right? But he wasn't particularly mentioning anything that was a teaching. It wasn't something that was a moral framework that people would then live on with in future time periods. It was there's no reason to really carry on the writings of Alexander the Great. In all, by most accounts, he's just a guy that conquered a lot of things versus a guy that was going around spreading a philosophy. Philosophies carry beyond generations, but I wouldn't take popularity as proof of
You're saying popularity, I would say inspiration, because what we would predict out of that is we would predict textual variance. Well, no, I shouldn't say textual variance because that's a real thing, but we would expect the telephone game. We would expect, obviously, if this was not true, then you would have people add to it. We can see this with the Quran. I told you I can give you examples of the Quran. The Bible has an open transmission, meaning that anybody was free to copy it anywhere, and then it spread like that. So you would expect it to change because this individual over here doesn't believe it, so they can add themselves into it, or they can make Jesus do something he didn't do, or they can take stories out that they didn't like, and so forth and so on. but we don't see that happened. However, the Quran's the exact opposite, to where we do see that this was a religious text that started spreading basically the same way the Bible did, but they started complaining that they're starting to fight over the differences of the Quran. So you had a guy come in, it's called the Uthmanic Revision. He come in and decided, he got all the Qurans and all of the stories together, and then he decided what went in it and literally destroyed and burned everything else that wasn't supposed to go in it. So the Quran has a closed transmission where the Bible has an open transmission. And we can see that the Bible didn't change as to wherever we can't make that same argument with the Quran because there's nothing to test it against because clearly they were fighting about it. So Uthman burnt everything else that he didn't agree with.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I just think it's a chance. It's an occurrence of happenstance because you do still have somewhat, variations going forward. The Book of Mormon, for example, is an example of somebody adding on and trying to refine the Bible. And it is widely rejected, but it's also fairly mainstream. You do have small occurrences of that. It's just that Christianity as a whole kind of was more centralized and it was spread extremely quickly. If somebody started making changes to it, people were going to point it out, and I think you would have working backwards from there.
That's a great point. So when the Book of Mormon was written, a lot of people rejected it because you could go to I forget his name. You could go to him and say, "Hey, where's these golden books that you claimed that you had?" There was a couple of people that saw it, right? Evidently, but he couldn't produce them. Or you can go to when he gets the tablets that before they found the Rosetta Stone, and he utterly just misrepresented and totally got wrong when he tried to decode the description, right, and said that it meant something else that it didn't. Then when we got the Rosetta Stone, we saw that he was clearly wrong. However, the Bible's a little bit different because why didn't they just produce the body? If Jesus was unalived and they have the body, why didn't anybody just produce it? And why do you have all of these individuals that are clear? Now, I know individuals were unalive for a cult. I get that. But what people don't do is unalive for something that they know they're making up on the spot. That don't happen. Like you can see the people that unalive to go to the Hale-Bopp comet and all this stuff. I believe that they actually believe that. But you don't see individuals that know they're making up something get tortured. And those guys just drank Kool-Aid and went to sleep.
I will say, one of the other big reasons that I am agnostic and not atheist is because, again, I've talked to Oakdale Curtis about the shroud, and the singeing on the shroud is what intrigues me. Because I don't remember the actual numbers, but I remember it was, billions, like in a billion, I think it was like 20 billionths of a second. There was an absolutely insane amount of light radiation that hit this shroud and singed it, which is where the image comes from, right? Mm-hmm. So we can't replicate that, and so to me, I'm going, well, gee, that's weird. I don't have an explanation for that makes scientific sense. So of course, part of me's going, well, I don't know. And as somebody who is very scientifically minded, I go, yeah, I got nothing for that. So of course, I can't say, whether there is or isn't a God. I don't know. But, given that there are so many other, religions out there that have been around so much longer, of course the question comes up, how do we know which one is right? And, you brought up the amount of evidence and stuff. But that also can go to, certain cryptids, Several people have said they've seen these things, And of course, photographs are easy to fake, obviously that's true. But you see a lot of the older photographs where it's a little harder to do that. And, like there's an African, cryptid. It's basically a sauropod. It's kind of a long-necked
Mokele
dinosaur.
Mbembe.
Yeah. And, bunches of people have said they've seen it. But is it out there? Do we know that it's out there? So I'm arguing from both sides of this because I think it's fair to kind of to give both sides of this argument. So I get both sides, and as somebody who's just kind of in the middle,
That's where I'm at.
Well, I appreciate it, gentlemen. Y'all keep following me. Like I said, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer it. But let me go ahead and go to the next man that I'm going to get saved, and that's Benji. What's up, Benji?
Hey, buddy. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm hanging in there, brother.
Yeah. I've listened to you kind of off and on here a little bit as I've been driving around. Yeah, I guess this could tie into the last discussion you had with Dawson there, but I kind of thought of this topic a little earlier. You had an interaction with a guy who was claiming that the Bible's changed over the years. And, I'd be really curious on your thoughts on that, because let me be really clear of what I'm saying. I do believe in the Bible. I do believe that the text that we have today is the inspired word of God. But I don't believe it's perfect at all. And I think if you take an honest look at the history of the texts that we have today as compared to, say, some of the ancient Greek manuscripts and the evolution of the texts that we have, there are differences. And I'll give you two specific examples. There are literally hundreds of these that I could give you, but two specific ones, and they're pretty interesting because I think you're a King James guy, right?
Yeah.
You ever study the history of that, of how Erasmus and his team came up with the King James Bible?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the big controversies with Erasmus was the Trinitarian verbiage in 1 John 5:7. 1 John 5:7. It didn't occur in any Greek manuscripts until the 14th century. So Erasmus, in the first and I believe second editions of the King James Bible, refused to put it in there. He said, this isn't in the Greek, boys. It's in the Latin Vulgate, but it's not in the Greek. And so there was a huge controversy over that. And then finally in the third edition, he threw it in there because it is the clearest verse in the Bible that states the Trinity.
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, these three are one.
Yeah, it didn't appear in that form until the 14th century in Greek texts.
All right, so let's take a look at that. I actually have that one on here. Let's see again. The oldest manuscripts: Codex Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and the Comma Johnanum. Is that what it's called? I think it is.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually do a study on this right here. So again, the oldest manuscripts in the doesn't have it. They say this is Codex Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexandrius. So again, these are from the Alexandrian manuscript. So it is true to say that the Alexandrian is older, and it's older because they didn't get used. The early Christians didn't copy these, so it went out, and that's why they lasted longer, is because obviously they didn't get copied from. Let's see, Cyprian of Carthage stated on the unity of the church in chapter 6, 251 AD. He talks about it. And he says, the Lord says, I and the Father are one. And again, it is written of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and these three are one. So that is him quoting it. And he literally states, it is written. So what he is reading from literally has that verse in it. And this was in 251 AD. This was before all of the Alexandrian manuscripts, the oldest ones that we have. The oldest ones that we have, I think, is the fullest one is Sinaiticus. The oldest one is Vaticanus, and it was in the 300s, if I'm not mistaken. So yet we have in 251 AD somebody that is literally quoting it. So they couldn't quote it, and they couldn't quote that it is written clearly if it wasn't written.
They're quoting something, and they're saying something. But
here's the quote. I'll give you the
in the Greek manuscripts because it's not there.
Well, it might not be in there and I agree with you. It's not in the Alexandrian manuscripts, but that doesn't mean that it's not original. We know that the Alexandrian took it out, and the reason why we know that it took it out is because you have people quoting it 100 years before the Alexandrian was written down. So if you have someone quoting it, then it's not fair to say that it's not in the Greek. It's in some of the Greek manuscripts. Obviously, it's in the Byzantine style manuscripts, and those are in Greek. So it's not in all of the Greek. I would give you that. It's not in the earliest, which would be Codex Sinaiticus, Alexandrius, and Vaticanus. I would agree with, But those are the Alexandrian, and there's a reason why the church fathers didn't go with that. We have other examples like the woman caught in adultery. That story's not in there either. And we literally have them quoting saying that they took it out. The church fathers literally I can give you the quote if you'd like. It says they took it out because they didn't like the fact that their wives could read this story and the woman wasn't punished. They thought women read the story of the woman caught in adultery and Jesus just forgave her and there was no punishment. So they wanted to take it out of the Bible so that their wives reading it would think that there's not going to be any punishment for adultery. So they wanted to take it out. And they're literally quoting as to saying some of these manuscripts tried to take it out. And again, that's why the Alexandrian had to be quote unquote rediscovered, because it's not part of the majority text principle. In other words, when they tried to change it, the Christians didn't go with it, so they let it go. They're like, we're not going with this because you guys are changing the Bible. And again, clearly the clearest evidence right here is Cyprian of Carthage stated in his Unity of the Church, that's the book that he wrote, chapter 6, this was in 251 AD, so this was way before Alexandrian manuscripts. It says, quote, "The Lord says, I and the Father are one." Now, verse 21, it says, "And again it is written, and the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and these three are one." I can give you the matter of fact, if you go to my page, I do a teaching on this. It's called Has the Bible Been Changed? And I literally give you the reference so that you can go look it up for yourself. But he literally states it is written. So whatever he's reading it from clearly had the quote in there. So later manuscripts didn't add it. Earlier manuscripts took it out.
Can I actually bounce back in here real quick? Because I've just been doing some.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
I've been doing some research on biblical canons, and I actually have to disagree with your earlier statement that the Bible lacks the kind of culling of canons, whereas the Quran has it, because there's actually a lot of canons and books that were removed from the Bible. As I'm looking into it right now, you have certain parts, the third epistle to the Corinthians. You have,
but hold on. We got to make sure that we're getting our definitions right here, because there are books that the Protestants and the Christian, or the Protestants and the Catholics clearly argue about. That's why the whole split was from. But just because we don't consider it to be canon, you still can't say that they don't have access to it. So even if you believe that's canon, we believe that those books are there, and I believe that those books were written and they're important. I just don't think they're canon. So the argument is not, are they there or they shouldn't be? It's the argument is, should they be canon? So the fact that you still have those books, and if you believe they're canon, you still have access to them, still shows the Bible hasn't been changed. We just disagree about what is scripture or not. But you can still go to those books and get them right now. So it wouldn't be a very good argument to say that it's changed if you can just still go get them. Because that's just an argument about if you believe it's canon or not.
I would kind of disagree, because you're saying one of them's scripture and one of them's not. Like, you're debating what's scripture and what isn't.
Yeah, that's a debate within the church. But like even if so, let's say you went with the Catholic Bible, and you went with what we consider to be the non-canonical. I can argue with you about why I don't think they're scripture, but you still have access to them today. So it wouldn't be a very good argument, again, if you say the Bible's been changed because these books were taken out. Well, the book that you bought has it in them because that's the canon you go with. So it's kind of hard to say that you believe it's been changed if you have them. I don't want to misrepresent the argument. Catholics and Protestants argue about what's canon and what's not canon. The overall point is that if you disagree with the Protestant viewpoint and you think that these other books are canon, then go with that. The Bible still hasn't been changed, whether we agree that these books are not canon or not. You still have access to it.
I don't totally see the difference. I mean, I get that they weren't burned. I get that they are still around. But if the guy who had unified the Quran hadn't burned the books, I think you would still have a very similar argument, you know? It's just that would be
an argument from absence, because there's no way we can prove that because he's burned everything.
Yeah, I don't see, I feel like the two are still similar. Yeah, you still have the existence of these books, but they're widely decreed as not part of the Bible. There's a bunch of them from Apocalypse or Apocalypto. I don't remember what that's a movie. I'm pretty sure, but
yeah, that's a movie. But
yeah,
the Catholic
books of
Bible,
Apocalypse.
there's probably more Catholics, and I don't know the numbers, but I mean to say that they don't, but it's been changed. Then go with the Catholic the Catholic doctrine. That's fine. If you want to go with that doctrine, then you can. Your argument only applies if you're applying it to the Protestants.
Fair enough.
So,
all right, I gotta.
You can still get those books though. Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Good conversation, man.
Yeah, good conversation, man. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, brother. Thanks,
Later.
sir. Yes, sir. Atlas, what's up?
I want to ask, you claim that the flood was a real, literal flood, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is your proof of that?
Hydrologic sorting, polystrata fossils, dinosaur bone beds, soft tissue, and DNA in dinosaurs.
Can you elaborate on any of those?
Yeah, which one would you like?
Just go with the first one.
Hydrologic sorting. So hydrologic sorting, if you take a mason jar, put water in it, add dirt, sand, clay, rocks, and mix it up, it's going to fall out in layers, right? It's called hydrologic sorting. So that's what happens. And if the water is moving, then it happens even more. Again, it's called hydrologic sorting. And the fact that when you look at Grand Canyon, that's probably one of the easiest places to see it. If you look at the side of the wall of the Grand Canyon, you can see all of these layers, all of these lines. That happens in water. Again, it's called hydrologic sorting. That's why these lines are so straight, because as the sediment fell down, it got settled by density and things like this, and then it formed these layers. Now, geology would say that these layers are geologists, most of them would say that these layers are millions of years apart from each other. But we know that can't be true if my next line of evidence would be polystrate fossils. So if you have a fossilized, most of them are trees, that connect many of these different layers, then clearly they can't be millions of years apart.
No, okay. So, you obviously realize that you can dig down, that there can be holes that go through multiple layers, like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, there's holes that can go through many layers, yeah.
So, if a tree falls and ends up in a pit or something, and then there's more layers, and that goes across multiple layers, then that would...
So great statement. So if a tree fell in a hole and then it fossilized outside of it, then you wouldn't have the lines going through it. So the reason why we know the tree was there when the formations happened is because again, in fossilization, what happens is the minerals replace the actual organic material and turns it into rock. So the layers are still there. You can see the lines that go straight through the trees. You can you can just Google polystrate fossils and you'll see this. The trees are there in the shape of a tree, but the layer still goes straight across it, meaning that it was buried when it was there. It wasn't a hole and then the tree didn't. Because if the tree fell in a hole or grew up, then you would have a fossilized tree and it would be separate from the layers. It wouldn't have this layering in it. But the tree itself also has the layering because it's made from the same layering. Say, for example, this is not how it works, but just to make it simple, if this layer right here is granite and the layer below it is sandstone, then if it was just a fossilized tree that fell in the hole, then the tree might be one type of rock altogether because it fossilized separate. And then it would be a hole in the middle, and you'd have granite that goes around it, and then you'd have sandstone in it that goes around it. But the fact that the tree is sandstone here and granite here shows that it was fossilized at the same time these layers were made. And we've seen how they were made when Mount St. Helens blew and it blew the trees into Spirit Lake. We saw how polystrate fossils are formed in real time.
A lot of these things that you're talking about is because
he just left
before they start. Well, people are assuming before they start. Like they're assuming, okay, God isn't real, science is right. You can't assume the science is right. You have to assume that nothing. Okay, you can start with a hypothesis, but you can't assume. You can't make a conclusion before you do the research. A lot of these people make a conclusion before they do the research. Then they try to do biased research and show their conclusion to be correct. A true study should be a double-blind study. That is the gold standard of science. A double-blind study in which you do not know what the person is looking for, and you do not know what evidence they have found. You're only going to report what you found, but you're not going to know what they found, and you're not going to know what they're looking for. That's the only type of study you can truly trust. A double
Amen.
study. Many of these studies are not double-blind studies. They're studies in which you already have a conclusion before you start doing the research, and then you try to find research that supports what you're saying. That is the wrong way to do any research. Every scientist will tell you.
Yeah. Hey, brother, if you're still in the comments, man, you didn't have to jump off the stage just because, I don't know if you believe that you were wrong about that or what. I mean, we're just having a conversation, man. You don't got to just hop off the stage if you think you're wrong, man. I'm wrong about things sometimes, so people correct me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting something wrong or believing something. That's what we do. We want to have these conversations to see if we can determine what truth is. And I'm not right about everything. So I was wrong once. It was a Thursday. Carlos, what's up, man?
Behold, the Lamb of God, he who takes away the sin of the world.
What's up, brother? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just up here to watch you, because I'm trying to become a good Christian apologetics, and I don't know much about how to debate atheists, and you're pretty good at that, so I'm trying to learn.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that compliment. Well, the number one thing I'd say is set some rules, right? I have my three rules. So number one is you have to answer questions directly. Number two is if you make a claim, you have to support the claim. And then number three is no cussing and use TikTok language, obviously, because I don't want to lose my channel. So make some rules. I would say be fair and impartial. Obviously, let people get their evidence out, even if you disagree with it. And then make them stay on topic, right? Because a lot of the times, if somebody doesn't. Like today, I've had really good conversations. Thank you, Jesus, because yesterday it was crazy. People just kept interrupting, wouldn't let you get the point out. So let them get their point out. You get your point out, and then don't make them stay on topic. Or if they make a claim, they have to support it, because a lot of the times, what will happen with people, especially atheists, I'm sure uneducated Christians might do it too, but more so, I see it with atheists. Obviously, is if you hit them with a point, they'll instantly run to something else because they can't contend with that point. Don't let them run. Don't let them run until the point is actually over with. You don't got to beat them over the head with it if they're clearly wrong. And if they've conceded, don't dance on them. If they've conceded and they're being honest and say, hey, look, I didn't realize that, then show some humility and say, okay, there's nothing wrong with not knowing. But if they're refusing to come off of the claim, even when they're wrong or they're trying to run away from it, that's when you see me get contentious or something, and then I knock them out of here. But if they're being honest with the evidence, then try to be honest with them, and try to have more conversations than debates. I don't mind a debate because the people in the comments get to hear both sides of the argument. So I do allow people up here that vehemently disagree with me, and I allow them to continue to disagree with me because I want people in the comments to see both sides of it. Because that's how I learned. I learned best through debate. I love to hear both sides of the argument and determine who's got the stronger argument. And then I can look it up for myself and determine also. But I love the debate because people can bring out points and stuff and da-da-da-da-da. So as long as they're wanting to be honest with them, man, even if they're wanting to be contentious, let them stay up for the most part until it's run its course. That's how I say debate atheists. And then outside of that is make sure that you're educated in the argument. If you're not educated in the argument, you can quickly fall for something that might not be real. And then lastly, I would say admit when you're wrong. If you say something, because I've heard, there's a lot of creationist arguments that I've went with that are outdated, and I didn't realize they were outdated, especially when I first started. So when somebody calls you on it, you got to have enough intestinal fortitude to say, hey, look, I was actually wrong about that. I remember I had a guy in here and I was talking about the the water that escaped from the planet that hit the moon. I do believe that there was enough pressure for water to go out into space. I do believe that. And I do believe that that's why there's craters on this side of the moon. But I made a claim that there was more craters on the near side than the far side. And I don't know if I just thought that or if I picked that up somewhere, but I made a claim and I was not ready to defend it. And when somebody called me on it, I was wrong. And I had to eat some crow on that. So next I would say is if you're wrong about something and somebody's calling you on it, then you need to be able to admit, you know what, I was wrong about that. I do apologize. I shouldn't have made the claim. I do still believe that the reason there's craters on the near side of the moon is because of the water that escaped the planet. But I made a claim that I couldn't support. So next time I saw that individual, I called him up just to apologize to him because I made a claim that I couldn't support and I was wrong on.
Yeah, I want to, because I'll be going off a little bit. I want to use discernment because I want to share the gospel with people. But like Jesus said, don't cast your pearls among swine. If they're just going to disrespect it and they're clearly not showing interest, there's no point, at least at that moment.
Well, that's why I say you gotta know what the conversation's for. Like, say for example, if a atheist comes up to me on this panel and he's clearly adversarial, I'm not going to win him over that. I can use discernment and tell that I'm not going to win him, but I allow him to stay because somebody in the comments might get something from it. There might be an atheist in the comments. I mean, look, you saw these guys up here earlier. Perfect example. These guys up here earlier were listening to me. They didn't go with my viewpoint, but all the other atheists that come up here that kept cussing me out, they're like, man, this is crazy. We don't represent this. This is not us. So people like that, they might get something from it in the comments. So that's why I allow when, I have plenty of people come up here and say, hey man, you're casting your pearls before swine. But I'm like, you need to understand that I'm showing both sides of the argument. So I have to have people that disagree with me. I have to have people that I know that are not going to go with my contention. I would love to get them saved, but I might, like right now, I got 40 people in here, and it just turned to 38. I got 38 people in here. Those 38 people listening to me, some of them might be atheists who might hear another atheist come up and get owned. And he's like, wait a minute, I believe like he believed, but this guy right here is showing me this, and he might look into it. And by the glory of God, he deserves all of it. I've done a couple of people like that. People have told me I've strengthened their faith. To him all the glory. And I've got a couple people saved. I got a couple people saved even on the live. And God deserves all the glory. None for me, all for him. But that's why I do it. So you should allow contentious arguments with. It depends on what you're doing, obviously, because if you're debating Christians, if you're having a Christian conversation, then yeah, I would say probably don't worry about that. But if you're wanting to have a debate style setting, then you need to be able to let people that could clearly disagree with you have that contention. And it's very rare that I go on an atheist stage because I don't just do lives. I also try to go on other people's lives. But it's very rare that I last long because atheists, they don't let me up they won't listen to me very long. They just say that what I'm saying is non-scientific and kick me.
It's like when I go live, I don't attract anything but Muslims. And like you said, you should still go on because you can strengthen somebody's faith in the chat. But when Jesus seen the Pharisees weren't accepting it, he started speaking parables. Now, obviously, I'm not Jesus.
Yeah.
But what should I take from that? Like, speak to them, but not speak to them in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So if I'm I'm out here evangelizing to somebody at Walmart, right? I have a booth set up out in the parking lot. It's just the first thing popped in my head. Then if an individual comes up to me wanting to argue, I'm not going to argue with him because nobody's getting nothing out. I'll give a better example. When people ask me, hey, would I debate anybody? And if you've ever heard me say, I say, no, I will not just debate anyone. I'm not going to just debate anyone because an actual debate setting to where, you get a 5-minute opener and I get a 5-minute opener and we go through the evidence. If take, for example, Aaron Ra. Aaron Ra is a very famous atheist, but you cannot watch. His debates are only for the people that agree with him. Nobody is going to watch him and then come off any of the wiser because he's so condescending and arrogant that nobody gets nothing. It literally just turns into an ad hominem attack right off the bat. And I would challenge anyone to go watch any one of Aaron Ra's debates, Aaron Ra, whatever he says his name is. Whenever you watch him, nobody gets nothing out of it. And he turns the debate into a poo throwing contest because he doesn't have any decorum. So I would not be interested in debating people like that because I literally know that nobody's going to get nothing out of it. So what's the purpose of the debate? That would be me throwing my pearls before swine because it's not going to help anybody. And once I see people up here that's not doing, nobody's going to get nothing from the conversation because the atheist is unable to follow and they're just either lying or something like that, then I kick them. I get rid of them because there's no sense in, if it's not going to help anything, get rid of them.
When I first became a Christian, I had this idea and this dream, and I don't think I've ever shared it with you, and I want to know what you think of it. I had the idea of somewhere in a bigger city, we invite all the best debaters from Islam, or just apologists from Islam to Christianity, all religions, right? And we have judges, and the judges are atheists, or necessarily not any other religion, so that way they're not biased. And every debater has like their own section where they go back and forth with a different religion, and we narrowed it down to the last two. But basically, the judges decide based off the evidence both parties present which one makes more sense, and basically you narrow it down to the last two, and then obviously whichever one. Now, granted, it could just be a very smooth talker, but how do you think that makes any sense?
Yeah, I love stuff like that. I do. I love to see the different debates again from all of it because that's how I learn. There's a guy on here called God Logic Apologetics. I'm sure most people probably know him. He's the best Muslim debater that I've ever seen against the Muslim, obviously. Sam Simone is good. Yeah, he is good, but he is very arrogant, and he is very knowledgeable. But it's hard to watch him because a lot of the times he'll start throwing ad hominems, and I'm like, bro, just chill. Yeah. As Christians, we don't have to do that. Now, look, if they want to get in the mud, I think Jason said this, so I stole this from Jason. I'm saved. I'm not soft, right? I'm a combat guy. I'm not afraid to get in the dirt with you. If you want to act silly, I don't have no problem throwing hands for Christ, Jesus Christ. Yeah. And obviously, I'm being semantic when I say that.
I would say
I'm being semantic. I'm not actually going to hit nobody for that.
I would say Sam Shimon is the best humble debater.
Yeah,
but I would say I think Sam Shimon is better.
Yeah, Sam Shimon is. I think he's good, but I think clearly, if you watch God Logic just take down Muhammad Hijab, then it'd be hard for me to say that because it's being knowledgeable in the content. Like, I'm just off the top of my head, Muhammad Hijab has millions of followers, and he was trying to get God Logic to admit that the Quran says it's the Al-Furqan over the Bible, meaning that it's the corrector, if you will, or standard of truth, if you will. And the Arabic word, if I'm not mistaken, is Al-Furqan. And I could see from a debate standpoint that he kept trying to get God Logic to concede that point. And eventually, God Logic, he asked him what the Furqan was, and he said that it's a criteria over the Bible. Or not, he didn't say over the Bible, he said it means criteria. It's a criteria. And then Muhammad Hijab busted out laughing like a 2-year-old, thought he had won the debate, but instantly God Logic was able to say, well, in Surah, blah, whatever verse, it literally calls the Torah the Al-Furqan. And he started laughing like a 2-year-old. But my point is that he was so knowledgeable in the content that he instantly shut him off.
But and
it's so bad that they. No, but again, he doesn't speak Arabic, but he knows enough of it that they can't get away from the argument. He knows what it means in the argument. So you can't run away from the argument. He doesn't speak Arabic, but he knows what the Arabic says in the verses that he goes to in the argument. That's why he won't let him off the hook. Yeah. And that's why they sue him and everything to try to keep the content from getting online, because he just smashes these cats.
I think God Logic is a genius. And my Catholic friends get on me about this, but I'm gonna be honest. I think he's so smart because he breaks it down for the smart person and for the person that doesn't know anything. So you could really watch him as a new and as an experience. And he's very one of a kind. He's definitely chosen.
I don't have enough knowledge to debate nothing but Muslims on everything. But when it comes to this, I have several Muslim videos when they come in here. Every bit of the information that I've got as far as Muslim has come from God Logic. Now, naturally, I research to make sure that what he's telling me is true, but he gives me the sources that I can go to and say, yeah, that's absolutely true. Like when they say the Quran's never been changed and it's dot for dot, tittle for tittle the same. Well, I've got slides and stuff ready to go in case a Muslim comes in here and says the Bible's been changed, but the Quran hasn't. I can go, okay, what about this right here? And I can show them, I can take them to the source material and show them. And I'm not even that educated in the argument, but I've learned all that through debate and getting the information. So that's why I love debate.
You know they can't have dogs. Muhammad in the Hadiths told them you can't have dogs. They go against your spiritual growth.
Yeah, they have a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, you can't punch anybody in the face because Allah's. We were made in the image of Allah, so you can't hit anybody in the face. I'm like, what? If I'm going to punch you anywhere, I'm aiming right for the face.
Yeah. I remember when I was considering becoming a Muslim, one of the things I just could not get around is not only do I have to think the gospel is not accurate, I have to think the whole Torah is not accurate. And that just makes no sense. Over all those years, they just got it wrong.
Yeah. Well, they got like I said, the Islamic dilemma where you can't, if you go with the Quran, then the Bible's right. If you go against the Quran, the Bible's right. It doesn't matter which way you go. The dilemma stands.
You ever thought about doing in-person apologetics, so you wouldn't do that, like videos?
I just started this. I haven't even been doing this a whole year yet, I don't think. So I'm not against it. I mean, I never. People give me stickers and stuff like that. I don't know how to react when people give me money. I know that as Christians, they want to give money to where they get fed. If you get fed somewhere, you give it money. Like if I go to McDonald's and get a hamburger, I give them money. So if I go to church over here and I get spiritually fed, I throw a couple bucks in a plate. So people wanting to give to me was probably the biggest. If you see this right here, this is my. It's very small. It's my Cash App right there. My PayPal. This is literally the first live I've ever put that up there. This is the first live because I felt so uncomfortable about I don't ask for money, but I just felt kind of uncomfortable about people giving me money. But I also realized, hey, these people want to support me. So I said that to say this. I'm not against it. I'm just so new to this that I'm growing in it. So if I get bigger, God willing, then there's different avenues that I might do. Right now I do this on Mondays and Thursdays for sure, and then randomly when I can. But right now I just like talking about this subject. I think that I'm a little educated in it as far as it's concerned. I'm a pretty good debater, I would imagine. So I like doing this. And if it goes anywhere, then God willing, I'll let him decide where it should go. But I'm not against it. So yeah, would I do in-person stuff? Sure, if I ever get big enough to where that's permittable. Because right now I have a full-time job and then I do this on the side.
I've seen you debate on here a long time and you're very entertaining. I feel like if you were to genuinely say you do a section where you talk to people like how you're doing now, and you did a section where you just debate like an actual genuine debate, I feel like you could really in time get to a level of a God Logic. Now, not overnight, but in time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. What a compliment. Yeah, if God willing, we'll go that way. Right now it's such a weird place with TikTok because you have to be able to control the live, and I hate to say it like that, but people don't know how to. I went into a guy's room and he was asking me he saw my name and he's like, okay, if there's evidence for the flood, give me the evidence for the flood. And it's on. I made a video of this. I went into his room and I said, okay, well, there wasn't enough water to go over Mount Everest. And I said, well, Mount Everest wasn't there. We believe that Mount Everest clearly shot up in the book of Psalms when it says that the mountains arose and the valley sank down. And he literally said, that's not scientific, and he kicked me off the stage. So, how can you go forward with that? Because when you just say that that's not science and you kick people off the stage, I'm like, if what I'm saying is so unbelievably true, then you should be able to knock it down without having to kick me off the stage. I understand kicking me off the stage if I'm, cussing you or being contentious or anything like that, but just telling me something's not scientific and then kicking me off the stage is not. And I found out that most atheists do that. I've only been on one or two atheist stage in all of this. I've only been on one or two of them that actually listen. I'll be honest with you. You can go look. The very first video that I ever done, I believe it was, I went into 4 Satanists. It was 4 Satanists against me. And they let me stay up there for like an hour. And we went back and forth in contentious. But a Satanist will treat me better than an evolutionist. Because if there's an evolutionist and they can't contend with the argument, that's the end of that. So I said that to say this. It's kind of hard to get a structured debate. I don't know who. I haven't been challenged. I don't feel real comfortable with just going and challenging people about that. So I'm just kind of letting it come to me if that's what it wants. And I don't know who. Thank you guys. I appreciate the support. I don't know, who would challenge me or who would moderate. I worry about that stuff when it comes.
Somebody invited me to a so-called structured debate, but the person who was doing it was an atheist, but like he swore it was going to be very structured and all this other stuff. And then he swore it, and I was like, if I have time, I'll do it. And then I saw him come on a live and he started talking about stuff, and it was just about his feelings the whole time. And I was like, oh nah, he not. I'm not finna waste my time and come up here for you to. I say 2 sentences, then you silence me like the other atheists, and then you let your friend talk for 30 goddamn minutes, but I talk for 2 seconds. I'd be like, the silence. Okay, so no, because the is not. I'm like, what? Like they don't really want. See, they don't care about science for real. Science is a tool. When you're an atheist, science is a tool to beat over the head of a Christian. If that Christian knows science as well, now you don't have that tool, so now you don't care about it, and you just don't let the person talk anyway.
Oh,
That's how it goes.
Creation. I wanted to say this early the other day. I came up here and I was talking about evolution. I wasn't saying it to go against the gospel. I was saying it to prove, even if he could believe in evolution and believe in God, he still would. That was my point behind it.
Okay, I got you. I apologize. I wasn't trying to cut you off. I just now there is a some people believe. So let me say it like this: you can be saved and believe in evolution. It's not a salvation issue. I would say that once you get saved, you should do some research on it, because the Bible says that He made us in our image, and that kind of goes against if you believe that we come from monkeys. So there are Christians that believe in I just bragged on God Logic and how much I like him. I'm pretty sure that God Logic, I've heard him before talk about millions or billions of years and saying that the Bible doesn't teach that it's young. And I'm like, yes, it does. It absolutely does. I'm not going to argue with God Logic on it because we're both on the same side of the fence, but of course it does. And I can go to the Bible and show you that it does. But that being said, it's not a salvation issue, but clearly I'm not going to let people on my platform that try to teach that because I'm against it.
I just want
So
I won't teach it.
they can debate it.
But
I was using
also,
a point.
I got you.
When you look,
I got you.
when you look at, okay. No, what I was trying to say that when you look at when you start addressing them about abiogenesis, have you noticed every single time I hit abiogenesis how quiet your room get? Every time.
Yeah,
they don't have a.
There was
so they started talking about something else.
There's still a guy in the comments somewhere. I think he's something atheist. I know you're still in here, Nick the atheist. He's been in here the whole time listening to me. But he made a comment right as soon as you said that. He said we have replicated abiogenesis, and then I asked him for that. He got off of that really quickly because no, we haven't. We haven't created life in a lab, Einstein. So, but it's people like that are clearly going to stay in the comments. He don't want to come up here and make his claim. He wants to say it where he can write it down and everybody has to read it, but he doesn't have to defend it out loud. Because no, we haven't replicated abiogenesis. It's so demonstrably false that you only want to stay in the comments because you don't want to come up here with that nonsense. We've replicated abiogenesis because we would eat your lunch if you made that claim up here. But yeah, when you said that, Azrael, I see that they I always hear abiogenesis is not part of evolution. Like, who gave y'all the permission to say that this wasn't? It's not part of evolution. Of course it is.
It's the beginning of evolution. Like, the whole point is and listen. One of the guys who actually is an evolutionary, he said it's different types of evolution. There's chemical evolution. Chemical evolution is chemistry evolving into biology. That's literally his claim as an atheist, and he would be furious. He would be furious if someone tried to claim that chemical evolution wasn't a thing. And when me and him debated about proteins and RNAs and phospholipids and stuff, he was like, "Yes, we've never seen any of this." And I was like, "Have we ever seen it in the lab?" No, we haven't seen it in the lab. Have we ever even replicated it? No, we haven't. So we've never seen it in nature. We've never replicated it. So that's a leap of faith. And he was like, "Yeah." He conceded that was faith, but he 100% said chemical evolution is part of evolution. You can't just skip to the cell. You can't skip from the chemistry to the cell. You have to have the progression of seeing the proteins, the RNAs, all these things becoming alive. You have to see that. You can't just say, okay, it was some chemicals and then a cell popped up. That's not scientific. So he would be furious if he heard them claim that chemicals are not part of evolution. Chemical evolution isn't real. Like, he'd be absolutely losing his mind. So they don't even agree with other atheists when they're saying stuff like that.
Hey, my brother in Christ, I got a question for you and for creation. Have y'all ever used that? Like, say you're talking to an atheist and they're just bashing the religion really bad, right? And they're saying evolution is real.
I do it all the time.
Have y'all ever said, well, let's say evolution is real, and it just so happened to come from God for your sake of argument? Would you still believe in God?
No. The way I use evolution is very simple. Have we ever witnessed something evolving into something else? And do we have things like orphan genes existing? And the answer is no. We've never seen anything evolve into anything else, and we've never seen these orphan genes. They don't have any. No. They have no orphan. They have no.
We did see evolution.
No.
Did he evolve?
Okay, we didn't.
Devolve.
Anyway, yeah. So all I can say is in regard to.
Man, my bad.
I got you. All I can say in regard to evolution is, if evolution is real, there shouldn't be orphan genes. There should not be these genes that just pop into the genetic record for humans. These genes are found nowhere else but us. Then there's also orphan genes in other species, which makes even less sense. How do you have other animals on this planet that they also have genes that are found nowhere else? That really doesn't make any sense, because I can see if orphan genes was in humans, you're like, oh, well, we're just unique and blah, blah, blah. But there's also genes in other species that are literally only found in that species, nowhere else, and they're found nowhere else in the genetic record. Makes no sense as far as evolution. You can't have genes popping into existence.
All right, guys. Listen, I do appreciate it. Shepard, thank you for the stickers a while ago. I didn't get a chance to thank you yet. We've been talking, so I say the same thing to everybody now. I'm trying to say it at the end of the live. Sometimes when I'm in a conversation or somebody else is in a conversation and we're back and forth and people send me stickers, I don't get a chance to thank everyone and people that give to my ministry here. I do appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I thank everyone that gives me that support, even though I can't physically stop at the time during the conversation and thank everybody that gives me the stickers. But I do appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, and it's very humbling, in my opinion, to everyone that's come up in the comments or even come on stage and said the nice words about me. To God be all the glory. It's very humbling. Thank you very much. To the atheists that hate my guts, that still stay in here and listen, hey, I'm trying to plant a seed. And hopefully, Nick the atheist, you've been in here the whole time going at it. Hey, brother, I pray for you, man. Come into my live. You're always welcome. I do want you to support some of those claims. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. And maybe one of these seeds that I plant will maybe grow one day. And the Bible says anyone that calls on the name of Christ will be saved. So, hey, man, you can call on his name. Right? Something bad going on in your life, last moments of your life. Don't be stubborn. Call on his name. Bible says you'll be saved. So hopefully something a seed that I plant will hopefully grow.
Before you
so I do appreciate it, guys.
Before you end, I want to say something with you, brothers. Aaron, you're a Christian, right? The dude above me.
Yeah, kind of be weird if he wasn't.
All right. May the grace of our Lord be with you all, and may the Holy Spirit stay with you, and may I see y'all again. Amen.
Amen. Guys, I appreciate it. As always, Mr. Allen, you get the last word.
Oh, I was going to tell you that they are a dig going on right now in Italy, and they are getting some evidence of Christ and his resurrection.
Okay.
You know, but I didn't want to say anything till I found out more about it, you know.
Okay, well, I'll have to look into that, man.
now.
Oh, it's ongoing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, brother, you get the last word.
Okay, well, like I've always say, you know, God bless you all, and have a good one, and we'll see you the next time you're on.
Thank you, guys. I go Mondays and Thursdays for sure, and then randomly after that. So I'll see y'all guys later.